In this video, we'll learn how to make long flowing hair with hair cards. This is useful because it takes less processing power than particle hair and is often used in applications like games. It is done by combining mesh geometry and textures. We will be using the paid plugin Hairtools by bartoszstyperek. I'm very sorry about how I pronounced your name. However, it's such a great plugin and it speeds up the workflow, though it is possible to do the same without it, but I won't be covering that in this video. Start off by gathering hair images that match the hairstyle you're making. Find images that capture the shapes and flow of your hair, and try to get pictures from all sides. Take some time to draw out your hair. It doesn't need to look good, but drawing helps you understand the shapes and forms you'll model. Make sure to clearly draw out character lines, like how the hair frames the face, and the outer shape which creates the silhouette. Also draw an indication of how the strands of hair will flow. Long hair is complex to model and rig, so breaking it up in smaller chunks makes it easier. Here we have a large mane section on the back colored in blue. Next we have an orange section, and in the front we have a yellow section. But when we model these sections, we will taper them to overlap each other, so it blends seamlessly. Keep in mind that the hair needs to be rigged, and modeling sections of hair that match the hair bones makes it easier. Here you can see I have a strand of bones for the yellow hair, a strand for the red hair, and I'll have 3 strands of bones for this back section of hair. When the hair is rigged, the weights will bleed over to adjacent groups of bones. For example, this yellow hair will be controlled mostly by this front string of bones, but as the hair fades off towards this red section, it'll start to use some weights from this red string of bones. This way, when the bones animate and move, everything will blend together nicely. But we won't be covering rigging in this video. I do have a Rigify tutorial that covers rigging long hair, so if you want to learn to rig long hair, you can check that out. When you plan your hair, it's good to understand the textures, specifically the alpha map. Here's an example we will make in this tutorial. This controls how solid or wispy each mesh of hair will look. You can see here the alpha map ranges from solid all the way through to very light. Let's look at this on some geometry. Here we have some hair cards that are already shaped, and you can see they also have a very dense or solid alpha map applied to it. And so if you look in the light, you can see it blocks out light really well, which will make your hair look solid. Over here we have a medium or kind of a heavy density hair, so let's pull that up here. You can see this, it's still pretty solid, but it's more wispy. If you look here, you can see light passes through it much more. So it would take a lot of these hairs to block out light completely, but you can see between these two, when the hair overlaps, let's see here, you can see when the hair overlaps each other, like here or there, when you see the texture map itself, you can see it's very obvious and it looks really bad. On the medium one, it's less obvious, but it still doesn't look so great. You can see right here, it doesn't look so good. But what you can do is you can take this medium hair, which looks better, put it over the solid hair, and then it kind of hides the really bad part from the solid hair, but still not great. These two densities of hair will do the bulk of the work to make your hair look nice and solid, and then we'll use the lighter densities to make it look more like hair and less like sheets of geometry. So let's pull in one of the lighter ones here. So here we have, this is probably this level of density. And so you can see here, we have the same thing, intersecting surfaces, but it's really hard to see. I mean, you can maybe catch it right there, but it's hard to see. But on the flip side, you can see a lot of light goes through this. And so it'd be pretty much impossible to use this to make a solid mass. But it looks a lot better than these guys over here. So we'll just put this one over on top of there. And now we're starting to get something that kind of looks nice. These light textures are good for filling out this wispy area more, or you can also use them for flyaways. So let's pull some of those in here so you can see here, these are very light. They're probably these over here, and these are good to kind of break the form of the hair so it doesn't look as uniform. And this one over here, which is just a couple of strands like that, that's good for adding like a little bit of detailed character. So we can put that over here, and you can see it's hard to see, but it kind of breaks the uniformity of the hair. It's pretty, you can see here, this kind of is a little bit different from the rest of it. So it adds some nice randomness, and these are nice to put some fine detail or some specific detail to make it look interesting. So that's how these densities are used. So let's plan out how to use all of this in our hairstyle. I did some sketches to illustrate the different areas we'll be making, but it's also useful to you to draw these out if you're trying to figure out how to make these things. So this section here, this is for behind the ear and the nape of the neck. The purpose of this is to close out the hairline right in this section here, and it also hides the bald spot in case if your hair is going to blow aside or blow backwards. If your hair is not going to move backwards, you don't need this at all. And this will be made of the medium density, so you can kind of see it's pretty dense, but still kind of wispy. These next two are the sideburns. These also close out the hairline and hide this bald spot at the temple. You also don't need this if your hair is not going to move enough to reveal this part. And this will be made out of the medium and dense strands. So medium more in the front, and then dense further back and underneath. So this is the main hair mask. This also closes out the hairline at the very top here. And this is the main chunk of hair that's going to block out light. So on the insides, on the inner layers of this massive hair, we'll be using the solid densities. And then as you go further out, we'll use the medium, and then we'll use a little bit of light on the very outside. So that way from the outside it looks nice and hair-like, but on the inside it'll be nice and solid. The dense hairs or the solid hairs will be visible from the front here, but they're covered by the nape. So this hair here, this red stuff, if it doesn't look good, or if you don't have the nape of your hair, and just check it out when you're finished. If you can see the solid hair from the front, you should probably go back and add some of the medium and light hairs on the inside, so that way it looks nice. I'm calling this the second reed hair. This is in between the main hair chunk and the front hair. This will be made of light to medium hair. It's fairly visible when the front hair moves around. And this is what I'm calling the first reed. So you'll see this the most. So this you should make look really good. It'll be made of light to medium density hair with some single strands for some granular detail. And then after that, we'll add flyaways to the whole thing. Here's some examples of the textures we're going to make. So we already saw the alpha map. We'll make a normal map, a roughness map, and we'll hand make an albedo map. You will need the Hairtools plugin. I got it from Gumroad. It's well worth the price if you can afford it. After you purchase it, this is your download section. So I'm using Hairtools version 2.3.1. I'm also using Blender 3.12. So after you download the zip file, go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, Install, and install the add-on. I've already installed it, so I won't click it. And then for the add-ons, you'll see the hair tools. So just make sure you click that to turn it on. And one option I want to show you here is turn off random UV flip. I don't use that. It's kind of nice if you use the default hair textures because it makes it look much more natural. But I'm going to show you how to manually do things. And so it's simpler with this turned off. And that's the only options you need for the Hairtools add-on. The hair we're going to make is basically straight and it gets wavy on the bottom. And so we'll make our textures do that also. We've already got the Hairtools plugin installed. So in your 3D viewport, hit the letter N on the keyboard and the tools panel opens up. Item, tools, and hair tools. So we want to open up this hair bake dropdown. Make sure whatever you're working on is saved, because this is going to open up a new scene. Click Open Baking Scene and click OK. This is what you'll see when you open up the baking scene, and it's all set up with particle hair ready to bake. If this is the hairstyles you want, you can just click bake and pick, say, normal map, and you'll have a normal map. You can see that here, this window here, this is the actual camera boundary. So this is the texture map you'll get. So if you go and move this hair outside, the hair will be cut off. So make sure you leave it inside there. You can name it. Let's call this hair demo. We can make this 4K. Set your samples here, file type, and so forth. So that's pretty standard. If you move your window by accident like that, just go over here to click on navigate and click this little camera icon, and it'll snap it back to the camera view. And so let's set up some of these particles so we can make our hair. Up here we have the hair nodes, or the hair generators. And down here we have modifiers for each one of these generators. And you can see, here's one here, it makes those hairs. And this chain here makes this generator a child of the first one. So if you click that, you can see it modifies the first one. And then down here we have different modifiers for this child. So you can see we can get some noise, some clumps, some twists, and some trimming of the hair. That's basically how that works. And for each one, you have all these settings you can modify. So you can mess with this and it changes how these things look. Okay, let's click this guy here. Let's zoom in a bit and let's delete that and delete this. And then everything goes away. So go back to your hair nodes section, click plus to create a new one. This is our hair system. And then let's go and mess with these settings here. So we'll leave this at 100 for now. We'll make this 6. We'll make this 6.5. This, leave that, just mess with it. Make this 0.05, no, 0.02. I want to make this really big so we can see it for now. Move this here, move that there, 1 and 4. Okay. So I want to show you what some of these options do here. So density controls how many hairs there are. If you make it lower, it's less. If you make it higher, it's more. These are the quality settings for the particles. Seed is just a randomized option. Width obviously changes the width. And these hairs are way too thick, but we'll make them smaller later. But it's easier to see how these things work. Tip radius. Let's go down here. You can see it makes it thinner or thicker. Okay. So we'll leave that at 0. Shape controls the taper. So you can see it goes like, it fades a lot or it fades very abruptly. So we'll leave that at 1. And same thing for the root. So for the root, we can make the root radius and then the root shape. We'll leave this at 1 and 0. And then we'll set this to 0.01. Make this like that. Okay. Let's add another one here, like that. Make this a child of the first one. So we'll leave the density for now. We'll make these the global, same as the first one. Leave that for now. I'll make this size 0.004, so it's pretty fine. Then the tip radius, we'll make this 0.25, 0.7, root radius 0.55, and shape 1, and make this 7. So these all work the same way as we just looked at for the first hair system, but these are the settings that I like. You can see it's pretty straight, it's pretty small, but it does taper out top to bottom. And then let's also move this GZ, oops, GY. Let's move this higher up so it frames nicely. Okay, so now let's go and add some modifiers or deformers to this. So let's click plus, click noise deform. You can play with these and see what it does. This makes it stronger. This it's a different kind of, I guess it makes it more even. There's a seed to randomize things. So you can kind of play with this and get a feel for what these things do. I've already messed with this, so I know the settings that work. So let's just go and enter those in. Make this 0.6, 0.8, 20, 0, and 0.8. So it's fairly straight at the top, and it gets kind of flowy at the bottom, or wavy at the bottom. Let's go and add a clump. So when you add the clump, you can see here it says child, so it's partially controlled by the first hair generator. So let's go and add that one there. Same thing here. Let's go and add these settings here. Set this to 1, and you can mess with this until it looks good. Something like that. So let's just look at this here. So you can see we have our hair clumping the way it's clumping down there. But if you modify, say, the seed up here, you can see it's going to control how the clumping is working down there. Now, versus with just the noise, it doesn't change. It changes the original hair, which is that one, changes that one, but it does not change this one. See that? Versus the clump does change. So it's kind of this weird, some of the operators are affected by the original. Okay, let's go and add a twist. And get these settings here. So it's gravity 0.9. It's kind of cool. Gravity controls how heavily the gravity pulls this twist. To make this 0.8. That's a little looser. 0.9. Sprays out a bit. And then maybe 0.3 here. Just mess with this until it looks okay. Oh, we also need to scale this down a bit. So let's scale it in the X so we can actually fit more hair on this sheet. Okay, I think that's big enough. And finally, let's add a trim modifier here. So let's click that. And let's actually look at this a little bit here. So for the trim modifier, we have the roots trim. So you can see it randomly cuts back the hair. But for the roots, you want it to be pretty short. So let's make this like 0.01. So you can see we get a little bit of stagger. And so this is going to be at the very edge of our texture map, and this will be right up against the scalp. So we need this to be pretty tight. Let's make some randomization here, a little bit less. And then for the tip, we can see what happens down here. So we can make this less or more. So let's go somewhere like that. And then deviation, or that's probably okay. We can see how much it randomizes it. It's probably like that's good enough. And then you can randomize this with the seed even further. So that's probably okay. Okay, so I think that's looking pretty good. Obviously, we wanted this one to be super, super dense. So let's make that thicker. Okay, let's go to the child and the generate and make this 1000. And it's a lot thicker. Let's go to preview so we can see what this looks like. And for some reason, you need to re-click it. Actually, let's click opacity. Okay. So it's a lot denser here. It's a little bit thin in the middle, but it's too wavy. I think I messed with the setting. So let's go to, so this, you kind of just click it until you get one you like. Oh, that's pretty good. I think our noise is messed up on our child. So let's go to, or the clump. I think the clump is messed up because this looks unnatural. So let's fade that out. Some clump is good, but not too much. And I think our trim is not nice. So let's go and modify the tip deviation. Okay, that's a little, let me mess with the tip trim a bit. Okay, that's better. Okay, this is looking pretty good, but it's still a little bit too translucent in the middle. You could increase the density, but then the whole thing would uniformly get thicker. And it's kind of nice to have some vignetting out on the sides. So let's leave this at 1000. And let's do this. We'll shift D, X, move this to the side here. And then we'll do S, X, and scale it to make it a bit skinnier. And then let's click these here. So right now, with this number 2, you can see these are both, when you modify these modifiers, it'll affect both of these. If you click these, this makes them individual or unique. Okay, so let's go and let's mess with some of the seeds until this one closes completely. So let's see here. Let's go here and just kind of mess with it until we get one that looks pretty straight but is solid in the middle. I think that's pretty good. And GX and pull this back to the middle like that. And that's looking pretty nice. Yeah. Let's also pull this a bit back. GZ. Like that. So it's the ones in front are looking nicer. These are just filling them in. So let's pull that back a bit so you don't see them as much. Okay, let's go back here. And let's see what this looks like in the normal view. It looks pretty good. Okay. Oops. Okay, so these others are going to be easier because most of this is already fixed. Let's just move that aside. We'll grab this here. Let's name these solid. Solid. Okay, so let's grab this. Shift D and X and move this aside. And let's scale this in just a touch. And then Shift D, X, move this aside. So make as many of these as you want to make. I usually just, people could do all kinds of things with this, but I just kind of go solid and big, then kind of pretty solid and big, and then I get smaller and smaller and smaller and lighter and lighter and lighter. Let's pull that in. GX, Shift D, GX, and Shift D and GX. Let's do one more. Shift D, GX. Okay. Okay, let's do the second one here. So make sure you click these numbers so this becomes unique. And then let's go here and set this child generate to say 300. Okay, that's a good step down, and let's also mess with the seeds a bit. So it's different looking. It's pretty good. It's pretty straight with a little wave on the bottom. And let's when you're lining these up, make sure that there's an imaginary straight line right down the middle so that these two are separate. I think that's okay. Okay, let's do this third one here. Make this even more sparse. Let's see here. Yep, this one here. Go to the child and generate. Let's do this like at 90. Oops. Okay, make sure you click these guys and 90. Okay, that's looking nice and airy. Let's make it a little bit wider. SX. Oops. SX. Make that just a bit wider. So it covers more area on our head. Let's move that back a bit. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's do this guy here. This is getting even lighter. So let's make those unique. Child. Set this to like 30. So it's getting really light. Let's move it over just a bit. Like that. And then let's do this next one here. So this is here. It could be medium, could be a flyaway. So let's go and make these unique. Make this like 20. And then let's G and X, move that over and make it a bit skinnier like that. And this is looks too similar to this one over here. So let's mess with the seed a bit. So it looks nice. Okay, I like that one. Let's mess with this one too. Let's see here. Yeah, that one's pretty good. Okay, so this one here, I'm starting to not like how this one has kind of a very even pattern for the hair. So I believe this is the first set of hair generation. So let's go and make that a bit random. So what we'll do is we will let's add some curls. Okay, and we'll make these settings so we can adjust this to what you like. 5.8, 0.9. But what you can do is just kind of play with it until you get something you want. I'm trying to get this to be very, very straight like. So it's pretty even, but it's got a bit of variety to it. Then let's add a trim also and really make this pretty minimal. Tweak it until it looks good. Make this 0.2 so it's barely trimming. 0.1, maybe 0.2. Okay, and then let's turn back on our child. Okay, so this is looking more random, but now this is pulling up too much. So let's see, let's turn off our trim. Because because our original hair has some twist, now the child twist is like over twisting things. So let's reduce that a bit. Something like that. And let's mess with the seed until it looks good. And okay, that's pretty good. This is kind of doing the same thing, so let's mess with that one too. And then we'll delete these guys because the sparser it gets, the more obvious these original strands look. Let's tweak this guy too. So let's grab this. Let's go to our original hair here. Let's add our our curls. Let's make this 5.8, 0.9, 0.3. Let's turn this off. 0.964. Okay, so that's pretty flat there. Let's see how that is. Okay, let's add some trim also. Trim, let's make these settings. So super minimal. Okay, let's turn this back on here. Now our child twist has a little bit too much gusto, so let's reduce this a bit. Okay, that looks better. Yeah, you can't see it there, but it seems like as it gets sparser, you can see it. Okay, so that's good. So let's go and make our flyaway hairs. Let's grab this, Shift D, X, pull this over, SX, scale it down a bit, GX, let's grab this, let's make these unique, grab that, set this to like 20 so it's lighter, and then let's mess with the seed so it looks random like, and that's pretty good. Let's make it a bit skinnier. Okay, and then let's do the next one. This is definitely getting into flyaway territory. Shift D, X, S, X. Let's make that pretty small. Make this even lighter. Make this unique. Go to the parent, generate, make this like 8. Go to here, generate, make that like 8. Then let's mess with the, let's see here. The twist and amplitude and frequency. So you get a little more curl there. And let's mess with the seed. Whoa, whoa. Okay, that one's pretty good. Okay, let's do this last one right here. Shift D, X, pull this over, make these unique. Grab this and we'll set the density to like 1. Go to here, set the density to 4. Let's turn these guys off. And let's go and set the curl for this one here. And you know, when you're doing this, you just got to play around with it. Again, I've already done it. So just enter some numbers, 1.4. Okay, let's go to this one, do the noise deform, and set to 0, 7.3. Okay, so that's basically it, and let's just play with the seed until it looks good. Okay, I think that's pretty good here. Let's scale it in a bit. And let's also make these hairs thicker. So we'll go make this to say 0.008. maybe 009. Okay, so we'll use those for like just little highlights here and there. Let's make it a bit smaller. And bump it up to 0.1. Okay. So that's our basic layout. Let's take a look at this and see how it looks. Let's get rid of these guys. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm liking this one, liking that one. These, I feel like they're a little bit too uniform, so let's go and tweak them a bit to make them have a little more variety. Let's make them a little bit more dense in the middle too. So let's just, instead of doing all that work, let's just duplicate some of these. So Shift D, Escape, GX, and pull that over here. Let's make it a bit darker. That's pretty good. Let's add one of these to here too. Shift D, Escape, GX, pull that over there. Okay, that's good. Let's grab this one and bring it over here. Shift D, X, pull that over there. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. So now we can go and bake some textures. Okay, so now we're ready to go. We can click the channels that we want to bake out. So we'll hit opacity, shift clicked normal, and I just use a depth map for the roughness. So that's all you need, and then you can see it kind of updates there. This is 4K, and just click bake hair and it bakes it. You can set the folder if you want, but I made a whole bunch of these. Let's call this hair card. Okay, put that there, and then click bake. It takes a long time, especially at 4K, so I'm going to speed this up. Okay, open up our textures in Photoshop. And let's do this so we can see it. This is our alpha here. So let's just see how it looks. And yeah, it looks pretty good. It fades nicely. It's pretty good. Let's look at the other one here. This will be our roughness map. It's kind of hard to see what's going on, but you can see that it's kind of lighter for some of the hairs and darker for the other hairs. I think it's okay. And then our normal map. It's a pretty standard normal map. It'll give some pop to our hair. A lot of times these are too strong. So what I'm going to do here is, you can do this in GIMP is a free program. So you can do this in that program as well. I'm going to go to brush here, hit Alt to pick up the color. You can see it goes there. Make a new layer here. I'm grabbing this color right here. This is like the default color for the normal map. I'm going to fill it so it's all that color here. I'm going to make this like 50%. So now this normal will be half as powerful as it was before. I'll just save that as normal half. And I don't know if we'll need this, but I noticed that sometimes they're just too strong. Okay, so let's close that, don't save that. I almost forgot we need to make an albedo map here, something like this. So do a Google search for long straight hair. Try and get hair that's just perfectly straight and has no reflections, just color. I like to have a darker area at the top for the roots. I think it adds to it makes it look a little bit more realistic, though you don't need to have that. So let's grab this here, hit M to use the marquee tool, and then try and drag a selection box around a straight area with no reflections. So something like that. Maybe something like that here. Okay, Control C. And then we can, well, I opened up here's our alpha map here, so we can use this for a size reference. Let's just paste it in here. And it's pretty small, but it's not going to matter. We're just grabbing some color, really. You could almost just do a color ramp, and it'd probably work out okay. So now we have this hair texture here. So I like to have darker roots, but the roots don't come down this far. This will be applied to our hair meshes or our hair cards. So the roots should only be at the top area. Something like that. So let's go and do that. So let's click on this layer here, which is our hair. Click and drag it to this little page to duplicate it. Okay, and then grab that top layer here, hit Control T to transform, and drag this up until the roots or the darker areas the size you like. Click Enter to apply it. Let's hide this layer here and have this one highlighted. Hit E for eraser. You can open up the brushes here. And I have a really old version of Photoshop, so yours probably looks new. Or you could do all of the same thing I'm doing here with GIMP, which is a free tool. But this is just the one I have and I know, so I'll just use that. Just erase away. So you have just basically the roots. Then let's turn back on that main hair we had. And let's click that layer. And then let's hit Control T. And then drag this up until it kind of blends. If you run out of space, you can hit Space Alt Control. And you'll see your cursor turned into a magnifying glass with a negative, so you can zoom out. There, just drag that until it kind of blends. Okay, that's pretty good. Click on the layer on top and hit Control E to merge it down. So now we have just one chunk. And then let's do this too. So we're getting a lot of bad artifacts because we had such a small image. So let's just blur it. Let's go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur. Make sure this is straight up and down, or you can just type in 90 here. Oops. Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, 90. And then adjust this slider until you kind of see the noise go away, but you still have some detail. So that's probably pretty good. Okay. Space Alt Control to zoom out. And then hit V for this picker tool. Left click, hold Alt, then left click and hold Shift and drag to the right. And kind of use the arrow keys to nudge back and forth until it kind of feels pretty even as much as you can do it. Then hit Control E to merge it down. Then do the same thing. Hold Alt, left click and drag it. E, Alt, left click and drag it, and E. Okay, so now we have this one giant texture here. A little bit The contrast is a little bit too heavy, so let's go to Alt, left click and drag it. And then on this new layer we just made by Alt dragging, let's type in 50 up here. Okay. And then we'll Alt left click and drag until these pink lines line up. Then hit Control E. So now we have one kind of like 50% transparent layer that goes all the way across. And let's just drag it so it evens it out a bit more. Like that. You know, something like that. Maybe you can hit Control T and shrink it down a bit. Okay. And then do the same thing again. Hold Alt and just nudge it over. Control T. Maybe you can like reverse it. So just get it to have like a little bit more of an even look, but still have some texture to it. So I think that's pretty good. So let's grab these three, hit Control E to merge it together. Oh, and we wanted this to be kind of a brunette color, so let's do that. So let's make a new layer here. Click a color that we want to use. That's pretty good. Kind of a brown color. And make sure you have this new layer highlighted. Hit B for brush, and then hit Alt Delete to delete. And it just fills the whole layer with color. And then change this to multiply. And then play with the opacity until like you feel like you have a good color. I think it's too brown. So with this layer highlighted, hit Control U to adjust the hue saturation, and you can drag the saturation down. So I think that's better, and maybe darker. Like that. Okay. Control Shift S, Tab JPEG. If you're concerned about losing quality because JPEGs, then you can change it to PNG. I worry about size. You can see I did a few tests, so let's name this Hair Demo ALB Brunette 02. Okay, now we've got our albedo map. The next step will be to make really simple meshes just like these here, and that's what Hairtools uses to create its hair. So you just make a mesh, you make sure that the mesh starts at the head where you want it to and how it's shaped, and then you want to make the edge that the hair grows from a sharp edge. So let's go and do that. It's pretty simple. We're going to make all these hair pieces just like our sketches. So we'll make the nape of the neck, sideburns, main head, second reed, first reed. I prepared a bust here so we can work around. You can get this from my Patreon site for free, but really any kind of character with a bald head will work. So let's go and add in our nape of the hair first. So let's Shift click to drop a 3D cursor, Shift A, mesh and plane, and scale this down to roughly the size of we don't have quads here, but normally you have quads here, so scale this down to roughly the size of the quads. Let's go to solid mode, and let's also turn on face orientation. It's useful in this part of the work. Okay, so it's important to have this face in the right way. So this part of the hair will be visible from the front as it kind of comes out. So make sure you go to edit mode, face mode. Let's turn this on. And then Alt N and flip. So this way, if you see it from the front, then you'll see the right side. Let's also organize this a bit. Make a new collection. We'll call this hair. Make a new collection inside that. We'll call this guides, and then let's let's duplicate this because we'll be using that a bunch. Let's call this first one Nape. And then let's go turn on our snaps. So edit mode here, turn on snaps, go to Vertex, edge mode, grab that and hit and turn off proportional editing, hit G and just snap those in place. Just kind of drag this along the nape and where the hair starts behind the ear. So E to extrude, 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 extrude. Just pull it around to where you think the hair grows. This is not great because it's decimated, but it shouldn't matter because this is just a very rough guide. And pull this up over the ear a bit, like that's probably good. Okay, so this starts the hair growing and it will close out the hair against the scalp. Let's pull this one in a bit. And let's have this part flaring out. Oops. Let's turn off snaps. Okay, so that's a pretty good start. Let me pull this one down a bit here and pull that a bit. Okay, so this is too much noodling. This really doesn't matter at all. It's a super rough guide. Okay, so we've got the hair started. Let's extrude to pull this down a bit. And then let's drop a 3D cursor here. And eventually I want to get all of this, I want this loop to be completely flush. Let's change this to global. And change this to 3D cursor. SZ, yes, eventually you want to get that all flat when it gets down to here. So let's slowly get there. That probably didn't make sense, but I'll show you. SZ, pull that down a bit. Let's also, this hair was folding over backwards, so let's actually pull that one back a bit so it's kind of facing the right direction. Then let's grab maybe that, drop a 3D cursor, and rotate this down a bit more. And let's scale it in Y a bit. Grab the whole thing here and extrude it down a bit more. Same thing, let's control grab that, shift right click, rotate, scale in the Y. So now that's more even. Now let's just go and extrude that down as long as we want our hair. I think that's pretty good. Let's go to point mode, grab a point, shift E, cursor to selected. And then let's scale this towards the cursor with proportional editing turned on. And then you can kind of shape it a bit. So check it from the front because this is kind of showing you how much the hair is going to flare out. And I think let's scale this in the X a bit more. Okay. Okay, I think that's good enough. So now we have the hair guide for our nape of the neck. And this is really choppy, but it does not matter at all. We do need to grab the edge at the scalp and go to edge and mark sharp. And that tells Hairtools to grow the hair from there. Okay, so we've got a nape. From this point, we'll cover making the rest of the guide meshes, which is basically the same thing over and over. The main hair section has some good strategy at the above timestamp, but otherwise, if you don't want to go through the full walkthrough, you can skip to the above listed timestamp on screen. Okay, let's make the sideburns. So same thing, drop a 3D cursor. Let's grab our little plane here so we don't have to make it again. Shift D to duplicate it. And let's, oops, move this outside the scalp. Let's call this Sideburn. Should call this actually guide. Guide Nape. Guide. Just so we don't confuse. We're going to have a whole bunch of these later, so this just helps us not confuse ourselves. Okay, let's grab that. We will turn on our snapping. Go to edge mode, which we're in. And let's put the first edge where we want this to start. Yeah, I think it's good enough. Turn off proportional editing and put that there. Let's just extrude, 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 extrude. Okay, I think that's good. Maybe go up one here. This actually might be too weird, so let's just pull this back a bit. Okay, that's better. Then let's grab this and let's double hit G to make that pretty close. And then let's pull it back. Okay, so that'll be a nice start for our sideburns. Then let's extrude this here. Let's move that outside the scalp. And let's drop a 3D cursor and rotate that a bit. I think the sideburns actually, the hair kind of falls more. So let's kind of do that more. Yeah. Okay. Let's go side view and extrude again. Move our 3D cursor, rotate this a bit more. And then let's do it again. Extrude that down a bit more. Okay. Might be good to pull this in a bit with proportional editing. And then let's pull this one out because the ear is poking through. Let's grab just that one. Control R. If you're not familiar with the proportional editing, usually that's off. So if you hit G with it on, it'll move the whole thing. And you can, as you're moving it, you can scroll the mouse wheel to control how big of an influence it's doing. A lot of times it's so small, like you're like, I can't see, nothing's happening. And you scroll the mouse wheel and nothing's happening. It's because it's so minutely moving. So just kind of like, look at this number up here of this number right here to see how big that is, because that'll tell you what's going on. It's confusing, so a lot of times I'm like, what's happening? It's not working. It is, I just can't figure it out. Okay, that's pretty good. Then it's just extrude, 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 and extrude. And then let's drop a 3D cursor here and scale it in. Like that. So you do want to keep in mind that you kind of don't want to see red. It's not a huge deal, but it's kind of good to not have that. So what I'm going to do is grab those points with proportional editing turned on. I'm going to hit Alt S, which is going to pop it out a bit. And I'm going to grab this and pull it in just a bit. Okay, it's not super. When it's flipped, it can shade funny, and in other programs, it's completely transparent, and you have to do things like, you know, duplicate and flip faces so it doesn't do that. So if you can avoid it, it kind of helps yourself. but it's not the end of the world. Okay. I think that's going to be good enough. And this is going way too far back, because this is going to be kind of, these are kind of like support meshes, but there'll be hair over all of this, so you want to keep these pretty small. Okay. Let's pull this one back also. Okay, so that's our nape. Sorry, that's our sideburn. And let's next work on the main hair. Okay, so grab our little plane here, Shift D to move that. We'll call this guide main. Okay, and then let's edit mode. And let's rotate it around the center. Okay, let's kind of pull this to the center plane here. We're just going to mirror all this stuff. Oh yeah, I decimated, so there's no there's no center line. It's okay. Okay, roughly like that. And place it where you want the hairline to start. So I think yeah, I think that's pretty good there. Okay, and the same thing, let's go to snaps on. Oh, this is not going to snap to the middle. It's all right. So just hit G and just snap it somewhere close. Turn off partial editing. There we go. Just extrude, 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 extrude. Like extrude, extrude. Why didn't that extrude right? Maybe a little bit of overlap. Like that. Okay. Turn off our snaps. Let's pull this up a bit here. Pull that up a bit. That up a bit. Let's turn on our snaps and do face. Okay. Point mode. G. Oops. So I'm just kind of shaping this hairline here. Probably the most important part is just getting this shape for the very beginning. Kind of just in general the way you want the hair to start growing. So I'm spending a little bit more time with that. Turn off snaps. Let's pull this out here. Let's control click that. Pull that out a bit. Okay. Let's put this first one on the scalp. Okay, so that's a good start. So for the main hair, we want to have this covering all the scalp. We also want to have this hairline looking correct because that'll be visible. So what we're going to do is when we make this guide mesh, we're going to have the hair kind of like, let's see, so here goes. So this is kind of the center line here. Okay, so what we want to do is have the hair kind of flowing like that, and like that, and like that, and like that. And then we want to have it going from the center line also flowing down. And then it starts coming around the back of the head, you know, like that. Okay, so we're going to do something like that. But it's weird because at this transition, it goes from the front to the center. And we have to have that all flowing towards the side. Okay, so let's go and do that. Okay, let's go to top view here. And let's go to move this. Let's turn off snaps. Let's kind of move these over so it's kind of at a 45 degree going out. So we can make this whole thing kind of go that way. Then let's fill in our center line here. Now let's turn on face snaps. Extrude, extrude, extrude. Let's pull this all the way back to about here. That's where it'll start flaring out in a circle or a fan. And then let's go and grab our points here and snap these to the scalp. G, G, G. Kind of just like guessing. As long as you get close to where you think that point is, you'll hit it. Okay, so this one will go back there. Okay, so I hope this is making sense. It's kind of this part here is starting to go in a circle. So let's mark the edge that it grows from. Edge and mark sharp. Okay, so that's where it starts from. And then the hair is going to fan out in a circle back here. Here, that's maybe a better illustration. So it kind of fans out. And over here, it's going to be all going that way. Okay, so let's put this back on the scalp with snaps. Okay, turn snaps off. Let's grab some of these guys here and Alt-S to pop them out. Or GZ to pop them out. I must have extruded that. So let's, yeah, I think I extruded by accident and kept it. So let's go to A and merge those points. M by distance. And it should get rid of all those extras. Yep. This is probably the hardest mesh to make. Okay. Let's finish this up here. It's a really weird shape to work with. So let's go and hit E to extrude and pull this out like way over here. Whoops. Like that. And let's just make this shape here into a shape like that. So we'll go to point mode, grab that, turn proportional editing on. Let's just pull some of these points around until we get like a half circle-y kind of shape. Okay, let's move this over here. Scaled a bit. Okay, it's scaled in Z a bit, and G and Z to pull this down. And let's scale it in X and GX. Okay, let's rotate this so this loop kind of matches that loop here. Okay, I think that's where I want that. This is a little bit weird here. You don't want parts to be overlapping, so let's turn off proportional editing. Just tweak that. And I think it's overlapping here too. But okay, unisolate, grab that. Side view. And just extrude that down. Let's rotate it a bit. Extrude it down. Extrude it down. I'm kind of matching these loops. Point mode. Grab that point. Shift S and 2. Edge mode. Grab that. So I'm just going to shape this hair roughly here with proportional editing turned on. And let's transform around 3D cursor. Okay, like that. And maybe flare this one out. SX, just a bit. Okay, that's good enough. Now let's fix this whole mess up here. So what we're going to do is add a bunch of loops. Control R and just do something like that. Escape to drop it. So what we're going to do is use a sculpt tool, edit and sculpt. And let's lower our smooth. Okay. So what we're going to basically do is we're going to, if you haven't used Sculpt, it's a great tool. You can just kind of like do great things like just pull things around. Super good tool. We're going to use this draw tool, and you can see how it's all concave there. We're going to use this to pop things out. You can see I'm popping things out, and then it's ugly. So then you hold Shift. When you hold Shift, it uses the smooth. And so hold Shift and you smooth it back in place. So we're going to just pop it out and smooth it in place until this looks like a skull. And we should also mask this root, the roots of the hair, so we don't move those by accident. So let's go and hit M for mask. Put this strength to 100. Make this smaller. And let's mask that off. You can see it gets darker. Okay. Got that masked. Go back to our draw tool. So now if we hit it by accident like I am right now, you can see it kind of stays in place. Let's pop all that out. Shift to smooth. And I'm using a mouse. This is super low fidelity, so it doesn't really matter much. Something got messed up here. Let's smooth that out. Okay, let's unisolate. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, we need to do a lot more. Oh, crazy hair. Let's smooth these out over here, like that. It's bumping out too much there. This piece of geometry you want to be pretty close to the scalp. Up here in front, it's going to be below those first and second reed hairs. Back here, this will be the hair you'll see, but we're going to have an inner layer of solid, and we're going to make another layer and push it out, and that'll be like lighter density. So let's keep this close to the scalp. So I'm just smoothing out until it overlaps and then pushing it out a bit. And I think this edge up here is looking funny. So I'm going to go to mask and clear mask, and I'm going to smooth this out some more. I can't, it's doing something weird here. So I'm going to, proportional editing is on. I'm just going to scroll the mouse wheel up so it gets smaller and smaller. It does get kind of weird. So this light blue is the roots, and so you can see it does move weird because this is usually a point like that. So let's just double hit G for some of these verts and just move them back. That's too confusing. Let's do this. Let's just grab that and move the whole thing back a bit. Okay. My only concern with this mesh is that I want these loops to flow down and not get too jumbled or tangled. So when Hairtools generates the curves, it flows nicely. It does a really good job, so it probably doesn't matter. I'm probably entering noodling territory, but well, who doesn't like noodles? Let's also pull these back onto the scalp again. So let's pull that down a bit, pull that down a bit, and then turn off proportional editing, turn on snaps, and snap that back on the scalp. Maybe here too. This looks a little bit too popped out, so let's go to Sculpt and smooth that in. To increase our smooth. Okay, that feels like a nice kind of underlying hair shape. Let's turn off snaps. Let's just make that a bit rounder. Okay, and let's just move that up. G, Z. Okay, so that took too long, but there you go, that's done. Okay, so let's build our first and second read guides. Let's go to object mode, grab our square here, let's move this here, shift, duplicate that, transform around center, and let's move this in place. So this is going to kind of start behind the first reed hair, so let's start it just a bit back, and it's going to come flow down over here. So let's turn on our snaps, go to edge mode, and let's G to snap that there, and E to extrude. Extrude. Okay, that's probably good. Turn off our snaps. Let's move. Actually, let's pull this back a bit. Z to pull that up. Double hit G. Okay, I'm squishing it down here because it's going to kind of expand and flow out, roughly following these curves. So let's extrude that here, there, come down a bit, extrude, 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 and rotate, extrude, and extrude, and let's scale in a bit. Turn on proportional editing, and let's pull this in. So this is closer to the front, so now we're going to be seeing this hair more. So just make sure the mass and bulk of it is how you want your hair to look. I think I want to flare out a bit. Okay, and then let's rotate this to follow the scalp a little bit more. Maybe just grab some of these back here. Control, grab those and pull it in a bit. And then go to sculpt mode and grab this elastic tool. Just kind of shape it how you imagine that hair falling. So keep in mind that you can see how the hair below it is going back quite a bit, and up here it's going to the side. So if you do that too much, it's going to be really weird looking. Even though this top hair will be thinner, it can look strange. So maybe let's pull this forward a bit so it's not quite so obvious, and pull this back a bit so that kind of flows a little bit nicer. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's do the first reed hair. So for this one, I'm just going to take this, actually let's name this, and then let's just duplicate this, Shift D and move that, call this guide first. Then let's just sculpt this a bit. So let's puff this out over the second reed hair. And then get our elastic tool. Just kind of stretch this to how we want this to look. So we want it to kind of hang in her face a bit. So let's go and pull this in, just kind of sculpt and shape it. we might need to add a little bit more geometry here. So let's go and cut a loop there, maybe here. Okay, back to sculpt mode. Let's shift to smooth it a bit. And elastic tool. Make sure this first reed is overlapping the hair behind it. Let's do some more shaping. Let's pull that in. And you can do quite a bit of shaping after the curves are generated. But this is a lot easier, and so it should save us time if we just put a little bit of time right now to make it shaped nicely. It's coming too far forward. Let's pull that back a bit. Let's kind of get that to where her hairline starts, like there. Okay, smooth it a bit. Let's pull this in, forward. And let's also pull this this one a little bit forward, like that. Let's pull this one forward too. Okay, I think that's it. We can delete this little square here, and that's all we need to use Hairtools to make the great curves that it does. Okay, let's build some hair. So we'll start with the nape. So we'll grab these and hide all of that, and I'll walk through it. And after that, it'll be the same thing over and over again. Also make sure under the Hairtools settings, you have this turned off. Okay, then grab your hair, Control-Shift-H, and curves from grid surface. So this is a pretty good size here. Just saved my last settings. Make sure you make the hair fairly small like that. The options are down here. Strand count, keep this pretty low, like 10. Long hair is really difficult to deal with, so what we're going to do is we'll work on 10 pieces of hair and then duplicate it and duplicate it and duplicate it and randomize each one of those duplicates so that way it looks kind of nice and natural. I find this seems very tedious, but I find it actually ends up being a little bit faster. So try it out once and see if you like it. If you don't like it, then leave a comment and let me know I'm crazy. Okay, so strand count, leave it at 10 points per strand. Keep this pretty low because we're going to add curls later, and curls add a lot of points. So 5 is probably okay. And you can see when you lower the points, it gets pretty flat. So offset to roots brings the curves higher up toward the top, which is what we want. So that's pretty nice. Maybe we can lower this more. Yeah, that's probably okay. You can add some clumps if you want to. You can randomize the length if you want to. Mess with the seed. So it's kind of like a nice stagger. And I think that's probably pretty good. So now go click off so you can apply those changes. Let's hide this Nape guide. Let's make a new folder. Call this grid. And bring this to grid. Okay, let's flip these backwards here. So let's go to this hair modeling tool. Click roots. Hold Control and drag there. And then tab to go to edit mode. Turn on proportional editing. Control T to rotate. Scroll the mouse wheel really big. And then rotate this around so you see the nape hairs from the front. You see the right side. Try and get these to be kind of perpendicular to the back of the neck. Like that. Those are pretty okay. Then control click to unselect, and then control T and try and get this plane right here perpendicular to the head, so it's kind of like that. Control grab that, and then do the same thing for the rest of these. These all look pretty perpendicular. Okay. You can shape the hair a bit, so you can grab these. So this is very tedious. It's like picking a lot of points and just very manually editing. Since we only have 10 pieces, it's not so hard. If you have like 500 pieces, you have all these lines overlapping and you just can't see what's going on. So this is why I do it this way. Let's grab that and hit G, and let's just move this back a bit. Let's scroll the mouse wheel up so it doesn't affect too much. Grab that, pull that back. Okay, and then it's also good to, you see how we made these sides perpendicular, but now from the front you're seeing kind of a knife edge, so you're not going to get full use of those textures. So grab those and control T and scroll the mouse wheel and try and get those to face forward more. Maybe grab these two. Okay, control T so it pulls forward a bit more. A bit more. That's pretty good. Maybe rotate that back. Oops, I messed with these. Okay, so let's turn connected only. Control T, make those bigger. Sorry about that. Okay, I think we are good again. Okay, so that's pretty good. So now again, control, grab all that, control shift H, and let's generate some curls. Okay, so you can see it created a lot of geometry here. So kind of get this to be the way you want your hair to be. I think our sketch had it fairly straight on the top and it curled more on the bottom. So you can up the curl frequency to make it tighter. You can adjust the radius to make the curls bigger. Kind of like that. And you can adjust the points so you don't get too many points. So I think that's okay. It's kind of behind the back, so you don't really need a lot. And that's a lot of detail already. You can, gravity is kind of interesting. You can adjust how high or how heavily the hair pulls. So if you want it more straight on top, you can do it like that. I think this is okay. Maybe there. And you can randomize the curls and mess with the seed. I think that's, let's see here, I think that's okay. Oh, one thing you also want to do, this will make it easier for yourself. You can see the default textures that Hairtools makes. They're actually pretty good. So, you know, just straight out of Hairtools, it already looks pretty good. But what's useful at this point is to try and get some of the main front-facing hairs not overlapping. So these over here, let's modify those a little bit so they're not overlapping. And I think the best way to do that is, let's see here. Let's pull some of these out. Let's rotate this. Let's rotate that a bit. Pull this one in. This one, pull it forward a bit. Let's scroll the mouse wheel down so we're not affecting as much. So just kind of try and minimize that overlap. It'll just help things later on down the road. It's kind of a big pain. Okay, let's grab. You can see how like it's already getting hard to see what's going on. We only have 10 strands. Okay, that's pretty good there. Let's see here. Let's pull this forward. Okay, then maybe let's pull this one back. So that should help us some work down the road. Down here towards all this, really crazy curly stuff, it's hard to, you can try and fix that, but it's harder when it's all curly. You don't notice it as much because the hair kind of vignettes out and gets more strandy at the bottom. So that's going to help avoid seeing intersections. And you don't see as part of the hair as much anyway. But let's also try and rotate some of these so they're facing more outwards. And again, it's hard to get them. I just kind of randomly click and, just make some of them rotate. Tool, Control T. Okay, it's good enough. Okay, that looks pretty good. Also, try and make sure you have kind of like a full cover over here. We're getting a little bit thin there, but it's not too bad. Okay, let's make a new folder here. Call this mesh. Okay, so it's Control, grab that. Actually, let's go to object mode, grab that, Control Shift H, and finalize hair. So you'll see it makes a duplicate that's actually a mesh. Grab that to your mesh, turn this guy off. And so this is now just a standard mesh. And I don't like how that's going through the body. So let's just move that back a bit. Okay. Now let's go to texture paint and let's make a texture. And I hate distorted view. Let's put this to 200. Sorry, it just bugs me. Go to preview mode. Okay, so we've got the beautiful, really nice default Auto Rig Pro hair, but I like to make custom hair, so I will show you how to do that because you might like to do that too. Let's go to the shader editor, N to hide that. You can disconnect and keep these if you want to, so you can plug it back in and use it later, but I'm going to delete it. Let's make this bigger so you can see, and just make sure you have the hair selected so you're messing with the right one. Okay, Shift A, S, P, R, I for principled BSDF, put that there, click that in there. Shift A, S, I, M, A, oops, I, M, A for image texture. And we will put a albedo. We will put a normal map. We will put an alpha map, and we will put a roughness map there. Okay, and we need to add a Shift A, S, N, O, R, normal map, and plug that in there. Oh, I hate that. Blender's too smart. Okay. Then let's go and look at our hair a bit over here. See, we've got nothing there. Let's click on open and navigate to those textures that we saved earlier. Okay, so open your opacity. Set this to non-color. And you will see it doesn't look super good. Don't worry, we'll fix it. Same thing for the rest of them. Normal, I'm going to do the normal half because I don't want it super strong. RGB, non-color. The depth map for this one works pretty good. Non-color. And then we will open the photoshopped texture we made. Okay. And then let's go to let's lower the specular a bit. Turn up the metallic a bit. Yeah, that's probably good enough for now. Okay, let's go to the UV editing window and set the view again to 200. And this, that's weird. Okay, so let's go and bring this to our opacity map here. And let's go, we're in edit, make sure we're in edit mode here. Yes, we are. Hit A, and so you can see Hairtools automatically sets the UVs like this. So let's hit A here, S, Y to grow this up just a bit. So you want it to scale taller so that the UV just barely overlaps with the roots here. So if you can see those right there. Okay, so A, S, Y, and that's probably okay. And the bottom should be fine automatically. And then these hairs here, we wanted them to be medium and dense. So we will GX and pull this over to kind of like the medium section. Right there. Okay, so we've got our first layer of hair. However, these are not lining up with our skull very well. So what we're going to do is grab those and actually click that. Okay, click that, go to edge mode, grab those, and you can see we kind of automatically grab the edges of all these hairs. And then we'll just rotate these in place until they look good. So let's see here. Let's get rid of those. And let's turn on wireframe here. Actually, wasn't too bad. If you can't click it a point, it's because you're not in X-ray mode, even though the hair is translucent. So grab that, G, and just pull it so the hair kind of sits very close to the head. Okay, that's good. Let's again grab these, edge mode, unselect those. And do the same thing with these. You can rotate them all at once. If you go to, I usually use a hotkey, but if you go and transform around individual origins, it rotates all of these different selections. Here, to show you. Around their own pivots. So that way you can kind of align everything at once. And then let's turn on proportional editing. Okay, so let's start with this guy here. Let's rotate that a bit. So you can see with proportional editing on, it rotates the whole hair. So just scroll this until you're moving kind of just a bit. And then rotate that until it kind of lines up nicely. And then Control Alt Shift to deselect that. That one's pretty good. Alt Shift to deselect that. And just kind of go through all of these until they line up nicely. That one, put that there. Then let's just grab this one by itself with a Alt click. And let's pull this out a bit. Pull this one in a bit. Okay. If you don't like the coverage, or if, well, you don't like anything right now, then go and fix it. This is a good time to fix it. I think these hairs are too far in, so let's pull those back. And I think these hairs here could go further up. So we have a nice even coverage. And I think I want to rotate this further. So this is the part where it's just artistry, and you're just trying to like get this to look kind of nice and even the way you'd like it to be. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. We've got some gaps here, so let's go to face mode, L, let's hide that. Let's go Shift D and pull that down just a little bit. You could also modify this. So this is yet even more tedious, but you can go to Mesh, Separate by Selection, Mesh, Separate by Selection, and this puts that chunk into a new piece. Then you can go ahead and grab that, grab a chunk here, proportional editing is turned on, and then you can just kind of like move it a bit. So it's not exactly matching and overlapping now. So it's a little bit, looks this, it's got like a little bit of variety. And then you can just Control J and join it back. So it's a little bit tedious, but I find it's just a little bit easier to modify things that way. So we've got a gap here I don't like, so let's grab that again. Toggle that, Shift D and pull that in place there. And then Mesh, Separate Selection. Tap back in there, pull that back. Yeah, a little bit random. Control J. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Look nice and even. Doesn't look very good yet. Maybe we'll grab this one here and stretch it a bit like that. Grab this one here, stretch it a bit like that. And then maybe this one can come in more. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's grab that, go to Edit Mode, A to select all, and let's kind of go in this view here. Face Mode, Shift D, and move that back just a bit. Let's toggle this. And let's move that up this way a bit. And make sure it's inside the first layer. Okay, let's go to Mesh, Separate Selection, and then let's go back out of Edit Mode, grab the new one we made. If you can't see it, go like that to make sure you've got the new one. Go to Edit Mode again, hit A in the UV window, and let's bring this to the heavier texture. Scaled out just a bit. Okay, so now it's starting to look more like hair. We're starting to get this look a little more dense. And I think let me see here. I think some of these need to come further back. So what you want to see is kind of like you want to see this thinner layer outside and the thicker layer inside. And I think we didn't get that here, so let's pull that back a bit. Let's pull this one here back a bit. Scroll the wheel down. Maybe this one here too. Okay, so that's not bad. You can see that scalp or the skin sticking through here. It's not worth it to try and keep adding more hair to block that out. So what you want to do is paint this texture. So we can do that. Also, you want to keep in mind, oops, let's make this something bright, turn world opacity on. So it's good to keep in mind how thick your hair is too. This part of the hair doesn't need to be light blocking completely, so that's not a big deal. But this is kind of helpful to see it this way. And then you also want to kind of randomize or push this around a bit. So let's go to sculpt mode and kind of push this just a little bit inside of the first set. So this way the thinner hair is on the outside. Okay, something like that. And pull that in a bit. You can go to edit mode and grab, let's go to face mode, grab some of these with proportional editing set to connected only. So you can like modify a few individual strands and make them look kind of random. That's useful too. So it's just not as uniform because we did just duplicate the first set. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Maybe we add a bit more. So let's make sure we have the second one selected. We do. And I don't think we need a whole new set, but maybe just a few. So you can go and hit L like that a few times. Then Shift D and bring it in a little bit more. Let's toggle that. Maybe something like that. Yep. Mesh, separate selection, tab out, grab the new one we just made. Where is it? Keep clicking. Did I not? Oh, there it goes. Okay, weird. Object sculpt mode and just push that around a little bit too. And go to edit mode and move some of these so they're somewhat random also. And that's kind of it. Just grab all these, Control J so you join it, and this is the nape. Okay, so you've got a nape. You could turn the mirror on if you want to. So make sure your origin is in the very center plane, which it should be, and then go to mirror. And I had some kind of, okay, so the hair is not perfectly mirrored, so I must have had some transforms on. So let's go here to item. Yeah, so it looks like some stuff is messed up over here. So just go Control. If your mirror looks funny, just Control A, all transforms, and then go to your mirror modifier, and it should mirror properly. Okay, and you can obviously see this repeat from left to right, but we'll tweak that later after we apply this mirror. But for now, we can just leave that off, and we can turn this off too. So that's actually the basic process, and you just kind of do that for all of those meshes we made, and just make it look kind of the way you want it to look. Since we're here, let's go and paint this scalp a bit. So go to texture paint. Let's go to object mode, grab the scalp, go back to texture paint. Let's drag this up so we can see it. Hit N so we can go to the tools panel, go to tool. So make sure we have your albedo, so the skin rough, that's what it's called. Okay, hit N, click this brush, hit mouse over somewhere on the hair, and the head, and hit S, or actually you can grab it from never mind, over the head and hit S, and it should grab that skin color. Click this and make it like a dark color like that. Lower this, right click and lower the strength. Make sure you have mirror turned on. Let me see here. Symmetry, mirror is turned on. You can test it. My computer is very slow, so this is just, it's going to lag a lot. But just go over here and kind of paint it in where you want it to be kind of less obvious that the hair is not actually filling the whole thing in there. It's probably a little bit too strong. And then kind of vignette or fade it in towards the front. So the goal is just to blend this. And you can see my cursor is really jumpy. I need a faster machine. So if I get like 1 million subscribers, maybe I can afford a machine. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm just going to deal with this. Okay, that's a little bit nicer. And then let's also paint behind here. So that's kind of all you need on that edge. And then just go and fill in the rest so it's nice and dark. And I'm going to leave the rest of the scalp the way it is because I'm going to fill in the hairline for those as we make more and more hair. Okay, like that. And let's go to the way Blender works is if the image is not saved, it has a little star in it, so then you know it's not saved. So just go to Image, and I'm going to actually save as because I might want to keep that one. And let's go to new folder, textures, and let's name this 6. Okay, looking better. From this point, we'll cover making the rest of the hair meshes. There are tips and details along the way, but it's basically the same thing you just saw, but over and over again. If you don't want to go through the full walkthrough, you can jump to the above listed timestamp. Let's do the same thing for the sideburns. Go into object mode, turn on our sideburns guide, go to edit mode, edge mode, grab this edge and edge mark sharp. So this is the same process as the last time. Control Shift H, curve some grid surface. Let's check the size here. It's a little bit wider than that. I think that's okay. We just want to cover this area here, really. The rest just kind of falls. So I don't think we need this many. Maybe 7. We can always duplicate them if we need them. Maybe 6 points. And let's get more geometry on top. So let's pull that up a bit. Like that. And I think that's good. Okay, let's go grab this tool here. We have roots selected. Control grab that. Go to edit mode. Let's just rotate these. Rotate these so it kind of matches the scalp here. So let's Control T, and let's scroll this mouse wheel really big and roll that till it kind of lines up against the scalp. Okay. And let's go back into object mode. Control grab all those. Control Shift H and generate curls. Just kind of play with this until you get the effect you want. I'm trying to go for kind of a straight, kind of wavy look, so it's mess with that a bit, mess with that a bit, play with that a bit, increase the radius but reduce the frequency. So it's just kind of loose curls. This is the cool part about this tool. You can just kind of play with these numbers to get the look you want. Maybe turn that one off. Mess with the seed a bit. Play with the gravity a bit. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay, let's mess with some of these hair cards so there's less overlapping and intersecting faces. This is a little detailed, but it'll help us later. And it's easier to see these things when there's not a whole ton of geometry around here. So I think it'd be nice if the hair on top overlays the hair on bottom. So let's go and pull some of the lower hairs inwards towards the scalp and push some of these out. And let's also turn off the face orientation for now. So one thing I like to do is I like to grab it from this view and move it from this view. So this way it's easier to move, it's kind of quicker to move things in and out. And I'm moving too much because my partial editing is on, so I'm scrolling up and I eventually get it smaller and smaller. Okay. Let's pull that one in. Let's pull this one in. You can see it's hard to see what's going on, but it's a lot easier to see it now than it'll be later when we have all this hair overlapping things. So this will actually make it easier for you later. And I'm kind of only going to focus around this area here, maybe more from the front. Okay, so let's pull that one in a bit. And let's pull this one out a bit. Control T to rotate it. And pull it out a bit more. Maybe grab that one. This is very noodly and detailed work. So if you get bored, just go and do this on your own. And then skip to the next section. Okay. Okay, so I think that's enough. And then let's do that one last little bit where we check our face orientation. God, it's so hard to see. And let's try and reduce some of the red from the front. See how these hairs are all kind of pretty flat. That tends not to look great either from your, and since the front's more of kind of the main view, try and get those to be more perpendicular to your view, the viewer's view, if possible. I'm getting lazy. I don't want to mess up all this stuff up, prefix all this stuff up here, but I do want this piece facing more forward. So what you can also do is you can scale things. So if you go here and Alt S, you can kind of pull things down a bit. Oops, Alt. And that's another way you can just deal with all this geometry. Okay, I think that is going to be it. Go back to object mode. Let's grab this and let's go and pull our outliner open here. So these are our hairs here. Let's go Control Shift H and finalize. And then let's go and turn that one off and put this one in mesh. And grab that one and put it in grid. Okay, turn that off. Turn that off. And that one off. So this is the rendering control. So if it's off, none of that will render. You can get to these different options over here. These we do want to render, so we'll leave those on. Okay, so that's that. Now we just need to line up these edges so they make a nice hairline. So let's go into, let's do this. Let's turn off face orientation. Let's leave that view there for now. Let's go to, actually let's go to UV editing. Let's change the textures first. So let's go and we have this selected. Let's go to materials. Let's choose our hair texture here. Okay, I don't know what the hair texture was, but we can grab this hair, shift click this hair, Control L, and link materials. Now we have the same material selected. Now grab this hair, go to edit mode, A, and then S, Y, pull that up a bit, and G, X. Actually, let's pull it over to the light one, or medium light. And let's make sure this starts pretty close to there. S, Y, let's pull that down a bit, like that. Okay, it's not looking great, but we will get there. So let's go to edge mode, grab all of that, go to orient around individual origins, which it was, R, and you can rotate them all around their own axes. R to rotate that. Let's pull that back a bit. I don't know why Control T is rotate in one mode and R is rotate in another. It's confusing to me. You know, there's not one below there. That was the that was our guide. Let's turn that off. Okay, threw me off there a bit. Let's just kind of shape our sideburns so it kind of blends nicely. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's check the flow here. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's just try and get these to be a little less obviously overlapping and try and get it to be close to the scalp also. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's just duplicate this a few times and make it darker and darker. Okay, let's hit A to select all, not caps lock. Shift D and move this back a bit. Let's go to face mode, mesh, separate selection, exit edit mode, grab the new one, back into edit mode, A to select all, and let's move this so it's denser. Let's just move this up like that. So it has a bit of a fade or a fuzz there. Sculpt mode, F to pull that up. And let's just push all these in some. Push that back a bit. So I'm going to be careful not to mess with this part here. I'm going to try and close this hole up a bit there. It shouldn't really matter because this will be covered by other hair, but it doesn't hurt. Then let's go to edit mode. Let's kind of randomize this a bit. So it's kind of like, okay, so you got a little bit of variety there. And then let's see here. This looks a little bit abrupt to me. So let's try and mess with it a bit. So we can, if you pull these pieces a little bit wider, so it kind of makes it a little bit softer. So you can see this is very detailed work. But since we have so little geometry here, it actually makes it almost doable. So this will be covered by hair, but if it's just not good enough for you, you can do it some more. You can add more. So you can grab our first set of hair, edit mode. You can select A to select all, or you can select only some of them. I'll just grab that. Hide that, Shift D, and move it maybe a bit forward and up. Then go to Mesh, Separate Selection. Where is it? Separate Selection. Exit Edit Mode, grab that, go back into Edit Mode, hit A to select all, and hide that, and then kind of move it until you get like kind of a nice blurry faded feel to it. And then do the same thing, just pull stuff around. If you want, you could also grab these and move it to the lighter strands. So let's hide that so you can kind of see what it looks like. And then GX, pull this over, SX, and pull that over. I think that actually worked better. Make sure we're all selected here, hide that. And let's just move this whole chunk a bit. There. Then I'm going to grab some of these individually again and move them a bit. Okay, so I think that's more than enough. Then I'll go to sculpt mode. And since these are pretty light, we can pull these outwards. So we can add wispiness to our hair. Since we're already kind of wasting all this geometry for that one little area, might as well use it. So that's it's pretty good. Another way you can deal with this is for this very fine layer, you could actually delete all of this extra stuff. So all the strands coming down, if you don't really need those, we kind of don't, you could delete them like that. X and faces, and then grab the ends. Make sure we got them all. I mean, and you can see it's very hard to see, and this will be covered by other hair, so you won't even see it. And then you can make sure you have proportional editing turned on and pull that in below the hair, the other hairs. And then, oops, and then you just don't notice it. So then you have a nice bit of thin hairs at the hairline, but you don't notice the hair like falling off. You just can't see it. So that's probably a more processor efficient way of doing that. Okay, so let's grab all of those hairs and merge them together. Not that one. We want all the sideburns. And Control J. And then we can put a mirror on there. Oops, so if that happens, just make sure you hit Control A and all transforms, and that goes back. Okay. So she needs more hair, but we're getting somewhere. I do think these might be popping out too much. Yep. So let's go to Object and Sculpt mode. Okay, that's our sideburns. Let's finish off this area here by painting. So let's go to Texture Paint and grab our Tools panel. Make sure we have the right one selected, Skin Rough. Yes, that's correct. And then let's zoom in here a bit. Got the correct color. F to zoom this down. I want to make sure I don't hit the ear. So I'm being careful not to hit the ear. You can let's see here. Toggle our hair just to make sure. Okay, so that's the ear, so let's not hit that. So it's kind of stay clear of it and color around it. Like that. Ooh, it's too dark. And just do it until it seems to blend nicely. We can slash to toggle that, and we can fill it in a bit better. My computer's very slow and laggy. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Then let's just fill some of this in. And I'm going to leave the area where the hairline will eventually be. I'm going to leave that blank for now. So let's just get kind of the lower area. I'll clean this up later. Image and save. Let's bring everything back. And that kind of bugs me, but you're going to see it from here, and there's going to be hair covering all of this, so I really don't think that's going to matter. So I think we're good. From here it looks fine. Okay, so let's go and move on. Okay, let's go to our modeling workspace, leave edit, turn on our main, and okay, we've got the edge sharp marked. Go to object mode, Control Shift H, curve some grid surface, and let's go and see what we've got here. Okay, I think we need some more of these. Maybe 12. Any more and it's going to start getting really confusing. So we might have to duplicate some of these. I think that'll be okay. Let's see here. Let's mess with some of these settings. 7. So the hair up here is longer, so I think 7 is okay. Let's offset to the roots a bit. Let's pull that up. Okay. Okay. Let's go to edit mode. A. and Control T, and let's just rotate these so they're flat against the scalp. Okay. So let's see how our hair is poking through. Let's go and pull that out. So I'm going to actually turn this to, so it selects everything, proportional editing, and then let's scroll away or up to make that smaller. Maybe we need more geometry there, but I don't think so, because we're going to have, when we add the curls, it's going to add a lot of geometry, so I think that's okay. Control to grab everything here, Control Shift H, generate curls, and let's do the same thing again. You can actually save your presets, so you can, like, if you get the settings you like, you can hit plus to save it. It's kind of weird, it doesn't always work right. You can see I had these saved before and it's just not working, so I don't know why that doesn't always work, but you can always modify it manually. Let's randomize that, increase the gravity, let's increase the radius. So keep in mind, this hair is going to be more visible. This will be like our main hair, and we're going to duplicate it a few times. So the first layer is going to be thicker and close to the head. The next layer will be thinner and further out, and so forth. Okay, I think that's all right. Go to edit mode. So just go through and try and get an even cover for all this hair. But actually, before we do that, let's mess with all of our tips here. So let's go to object mode, grab that, click roots, control, and circle around there, edit mode, and Alt S for scale, and scroll that down. And let's make these roots a bit smaller, because the hair is all compressing right in the middle, and it's going to get a little bit hard to fit it. Okay, let's grab this, L, and Shift D and pull that up. And let's turn this to connected only. So just go around and try and get the hair to have a nice even coverage. Try and avoid any overlaps or really obvious intersections. This is going to be very visible. Basically, all of this is going to be very visible. So try and get this to look nice. However, this is the back side of the head. So back here, you're not going to really look at this unless it's like a third person shooter or something like that. Then you would see it. But just kind of keep in mind where this is going and what it's going to be used for. So I think by now you should be getting the idea. And so it should be starting to get boring for you. So kind of go to it and you can just do this. I'm going to sit here and do this on video anyway, because sometimes it's nice to watch the entire tedious process. I will speed it up a bit so it's not totally killing you. I'm just picking a few strands to push out above the other ones, so that way it hides intersections. And we're going to mirror this over, and then we're going to have to fix it again when this is all mesh geometry. We're going to have to fix it again when we have a mirror to make it look somewhat random in the middle. But for now, that's all right. When the hair gets towards the middle, these edges, kind of want to be perpendicular to the very back of the scalp. Otherwise you might get some weird shading. So, you know, try and get it to be perpendicular. I know the head's not flat, but just try and get it to be somewhat even. And here it's probably okay. Okay, so the basic shape's okay. I think I'm going to pull this whole thing down a little bit. And inwards. This bugs me, but I think it's not going to matter. It's going to get wispy down there. So leave that there. And then what we can do is we can work on the hair and the hairline. It should be kind of like growing out of the scalp. Right now it's kind of just laying flat, so let's go and tweak that a bit. Okay, let's go to object mode, control, grab all that. Go to edit mode, control I, and let's unselect these with these lower ones with Shift L, and Shift L. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's turn this to connected only, and GZ, and let's just actually here. Let's turn that off. GZ and pull that up. I know it's twisting everything funny, but the curve that's controlling this here. See the curve, so now it's starting to pull up and over. Let's control Z and then G, Z and pull it a bit more. Hit A, so you can see now it looks like hair growing out of the head. Then let's go and rotate this stuff so it's flat again. Let's try and get this to flatten back down again. This is where the face orientation helps. And let's try and get these to be parallel again over here. We'll be tweaking these more in mesh mode. So it's not too bad, but let's still try and improve this a bit. Okay, that's better. Let's grab that, Shift D to move it. Shift D to duplicate it. Okay, I think we're almost done here. It's quite a bit of a fine control here. It's so hard to see. But okay. So I think that's a good first pass. Object mode. Control, grab all that. Control Shift H and finalize hair. Okay, let's try it again. Control Shift H, finalize hair. Okay, worked that time. Drag this to the mesh, turn that off, And let's make our roots align better. Let's go to UV editing, edit mode, A, S, Y, pull that up, S, G, X, pull it across, S, X, G, X. Just get that lining up. Okay, that's pretty good. And then let's line up these roots. Edge mode, sorry, A. Let's turn this, it's kind of buggy. For some reason, this kind of turns on and off. Okay, let's get that. And let's rotate these in place. So kind of get these to be lined up flat along the edge. Individual origins. So let's start back here. Let's just R to rotate that. So I think this back one's probably okay. So let's Alt, Shift. Now let's rotate these. So I'm looking at this very back one. Rotate that in. Move that over that. And Alt, Shift to unselect it. There are two there. Alt, Shift. Okay, then let's rotate this next one. Let's increase that a bit. Alt, Shift. Rotate this guy here. Pull that in a bit. Rotate this next one here. Rotate that one. I think we're intersecting the scalp. I'll have to fix that. Pull it out just a bit. So we're just kind of roughly lining these things up. Okay. Alt Shift that one. Let's rotate these so they're kind of forward facing. But not totally. Rotate that up here more. Okay, it's not bad, but I kind of messed these up here. So let's see, what's the easiest way? There's so few, I think we can just edit them. So let's just hide that. Grab this edge here. Let's G and just pull that up. L, H, grab that here. Kind of pull that up. And it's a little bit warped, so let's go to sculpt mode. Let's make sure this is not too strong. That is too strong. Put around 0.2 or so. F to make it bigger. Let's go here so we can see it better. Okay. And just shift and just smooth it out a bit. Maybe push that out a bit. Okay, it's good. Alt H. And then let's go back to edit mode. Okay, so that's better. Some of these inside here got kind of messed up too, so let's see if we can fix that. Let's go to edit and sculpt. Hold shift and just smooth some of these out a bit. And maybe go to this tool here and just pull some of these so they're kind of flush against the scalp. The edges. Pull that up. Can't see. Let's go to face sets and initiate face sets by these parts. Okay. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. It's a good idea to, let's see here, let's go to object mode, to throw a mirror on here, because this will, okay, so our mirror's messed up, so let's go Control A, all transforms. So throw a mirror on so you can kind of see it's looking a little bit weird back here, especially. It looks like a rectangle. So let's go and tweak this so it's shaped more rounded. So let's go and tweak that. We can probably just do this. And this one's going to be rather close to the scalp. Okay, that's pretty good. If you want to rotate these, you can do that too. Just Alt click an edge and hit R twice. You can see it's not as easy as when we had our Hairtools curve-based hair. See, much harder. We still have that, so if you find you don't like these, you can back up a step and just change them manually. I mean, change it in the curves. You have to redo some work, but if you feel like you want to go back to that, you can always do that. I think I'm okay. Let's check with our shading turned on. And I'm not worried about this bald spot there. I think maybe the hair's sticking out too far. So let's go edit and sculpt mode because we're going to put more hair over there. Let me pull all that in. Maybe pull all of this in. I'm probably intersecting some hair now. Okay, then let's look at this again and try and line up our hairline a little bit better. Let's pull it over. I want to try and make use of all the geometry we've got to draw this hairline. So right now I'm just kind of looking at this reed here and trying to get this to look fairly even. We're going to stagger it with our other pieces of hair. We're going to duplicate this a few times. Do you want to think what you want your hairline to look like? I mean the part to look like. If you want to see the skin of the scalp, then you want to move everything out. So there's a little bald spot. I'd like to kind of get close, but not quite expose the scalp. It just it's hard to not make it look distracting for me. And even if you do expose it, you can color the scalp all dark there, but it's kind of nice to have the skin a little bit lighter. Wait, I just want to get this front part to be a little more solid looking. So how are we going to do this? Okay, I think that's pretty good. And then I think we can duplicate some of these pieces here and duplicate and make them darker and lighter. So let's go and do that next. I want to think, how long do I want this hair? I think maybe a bit longer. So let's pull this down a bit more. Let's grab the hair, go to edit mode, face mode, A to select all. Let's go over here and GX, and let's make this solid. SX to pull that out a bit. Okay, so this will be our solid layer. This will be the innermost layer of our hair. So let's go and kind of sculpt this into the shape we want it to look like. But it should be a little bit smaller than our overall hair. So we can go and look at the image, the reference image. So something like comes out fairly wide. Comes off the scalp and puffs out a bit, goes back in. So we'll make the solid hair a little bit smaller than this blue thing here. Let's see if we can look at this here. So we'll make the solid hair a little bit smaller than this blue part here. Okay. So let's pull it out a bit. Now, if you'll remember, we're going to put a strand of hair going down here and a strand of hair right down there. So that's 2 layers we need to put on top of this side area. So let's not push it out too much. So I think that should be about enough. Okay. And then since we lined up this hair with the part below it, this hairline, we should pull it back a bit to match it, because we're going to duplicate this and pull it forward with some thinner hair. So let's just pull this back a bit. Yeah. Okay. So I think we've got this shaping up nicely. You can see holes in there. So it can be good. It's kind of good to close those up if you have time to do that. It's not super necessary because we're going to paint the scalp dark anyway. Maybe the really obvious ones you can do that. Okay, so let's actually grab this, hit A to select all, and let's move this forward a bit. Shift D to move that forward a bit. Okay, then go to Mesh, Separate Selection. Let's grab our new hair, grab that A, let's toggle that off so we can see it change, and GX, and pull this to the medium kind of dense texture there. Okay, then let's go here, and the hair is poking through because we moved the whole thing forward. So let's go to face mode, X-ray mode, and let's control drag just to deselect the hair at the hairline. Maybe some over here. And then let's Alt S to pull all the hair out. Let's reduce the influence. Okay, just enough to go outside. Okay. And then let's go and edit these pieces here. So let's go to sculpt mode, and let's pull it around until it looks more natural and more like strands of hair. Push a lot of this out so we read more the thinner hair, and we're also shaping how our hair looks. But you want to kind of hide the fact that these are sheets of geometry, and the thinner density alphas look better. I also find it's nice with the thinner textures, you can pull them forward, so when you see the silhouette of the hair, you read the thinner textures. Kind of like that. So it helps with that illusion. Kind of checking the shape here and trying to see if it's okay. And I don't like how it's sinking in the middle. So let's kind of pull that out a bit. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, something like that. So I do think that we should pull the solid parts a little bit further out to match the thinner part, just a bit, so it feels a little bit better. Just looking at my hairline here, and I see something that bugs me. This little point here looks a little too, you can see the pattern too easily between these two. So what I want to do is move this one in a bit. So let's grab that. Proportional editing is turned on. Let's rotate that a bit and pull it back. I think that's a little bit better. And let's pull it in some also. Let's grab this medium one here. And let's move that over a bit like that. Okay, that feels a little better. It's kind of bugging me. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Make one more layer, but make this even lighter still. So let's go to Edit Mode, Face Mode, A to select all. Let's zoom in a bit here. Shift D to move that forward some, like that. Then go to Mesh, Separate Selection, Exit Edit Mode. Grab our new one, which is there. Back into edit mode. A, go to the UV editing window. GX and go to the, let's turn this off so you can see it. GX and go to the lighter hair like that. Okay. And let's go to sculpt mode. And let's move things around a bit so looks nice and kind of even and random. We can edit point mode also and grab some of these and move them individually. That blends a little bit better. And this hairline will be visible from the front. So make sure you try to make it look as nice as possible. It won't be very visible, but a little bit visible. Just try and get a nice feeling, kind of stagger or blend. This little area is looking weird to me, so let's just rotate that so it's more upright. Okay, I think that hairline looks pretty good. So now let's go in sculpt mode. And let's push this further out. So now we're reading the very thin wispy hairs instead of the kind of medium density hairs. So especially around the perimeters, when you get this side view or you can see the shape of the hair, you can pull this out. So here, like that. So it looks nice and kind of like hair-like. Peaky, you can kind of just shift, smooth it back down. Let's pull some hair down here so it looks kind of strandy, kind of like. Let's pull it up a bit here. I'm going to pull it less here than the rest of the hair, because I think the hair is going to like puff out more towards the bottom where it's wavy. On the top, it's going to be nice and straight. So for that part, I'm not going to push it out too far. Like this is probably too much. And oh, we forgot to randomize it. Let's go back to object mode. make sure our outer hair is selected. I can't tell which hair it is, so I'll go into edit mode and make sure we're on this set of UVs. So now I know this is the light hair. And then grab some hair and kind of just like randomize things. So let me pull one bit out. And these you don't have to worry about being able to see intersections because it's so fine you can't catch it. Okay. Okay, so I think that's good for that main chunk of hair. I forgot to do something for the other two sets of hair, but for this one we can do it. It's not necessary, but it can help sometimes. So let's break this hair into, I'm going to join these three groups of hair, but let's break it up. So go to edit mode, point mode, A to select all, go to object data properties, vertex groups, hit plus. Let's call this hair main heavy. And then go down here and click assign. So this way later on, if you need to edit just the heavy hairs, you can go back here and break it off and then edit it and then merge it back. And so it's kind of a nice backup to have just in case. We'll call this one, it's the medium ones. This is probably overkill here, but let's just do it anyway. Hair, main, medium, and assign. Let's grab the light ones here. And add a vertex group. Hair, main, light. Okay, so that's that. Then we can join all these, Control J. So now it's one big chunk like that. But if we wanted to grab the heavy hair like that and break it off, you can select and then you have all that separated. So it's kind of nice. Okay, so let's go and do our last two strands of hair. Hide this guy here. Let's open up our guide mesh for our second reed hair. Grab that, edit mode, edge mode. Let's zoom in so we can see better. Control, grab that edge and edge mark sharp. Okay, back to object mode. Let's zoom out a bit here so we can see what's going on. Control Shift H, curve some grid surface. Open up our options here. So this is a bit of a link between the front hairs and the main chunk of hair. So maybe 7 is probably enough. Lower that to 6. Let's offset to roots so we can bring the detail more on top. And I think that's going to be okay. To grab our guide and hide it, grab this, move it to the grid. And then let's turn on our hair again. So this new chunk, these strands want to be outside and kind of on top of the main hair. Let's go here so we can see better. Grab it. And let's just pull this out. I'm going to go to the modeling view and do that so I can see it moving. Maybe get one subdivide here. So segments, subdivide, do that. Looks like our hair is all inverted. It's kind of weird. Let's put that there. Turn off proportional editing. Pull that up. Let's just get these and pull them out. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Hit A and Control T. And let's just rotate that. So, and I think this wants to be a little bit longer. So let's check the flow. So we want the back of this chunk of hair to kind of match the flow of these hairs. So let's turn on proportional editing and take off connected. So let's kind of get the back of it to match the main flow of hair like that. Pull that out, and let's pull it out a bit. Okay. You can see from the front it's just getting wider and wider. Let's pull that back in a bit. We're going to intersect here, but that's okay. We'll fix that later once we add the curl modifier. So from the back, that matches from the front. Remember, we're going to have this front set of hair too, like that. So this front edge wants to match the front hair. So turn off this one. Yeah, so the front edge of this set of strands wants to match this one here. So let's go and pull that one. And the first reed hair is going to actually sit on top of this set of hair we're making now, but it's okay that the guide mesh is below because that's just a quick guide to get the flow of our curves. Let's turn that back off, turn that on. Okay, so I think that's going to be pretty good. Let's add some curls. So let's go to click this roots button here, control grab all the roots, and then then click object, control shift H, curves, generate curls. Then let's mess with this stuff again. So radius, let's make it a bit bigger. Frequency, let's turn that off. And randomize. Maybe leave it on. I think these should be a little bit more wavy. I think it'd be more interesting. It's too wavy on top. Maybe gravity will help. Okay, that's a little better. Maybe mess with this a bit. Okay, that's a little bit better. So it's kind of wavy on bottom. Then let's shape this a little bit and let's fix some of these overlaps. And let's push it in a bit because our front edge of hair is going to have to go over this one. Grab that guy here, click roots, grab that. And let's see here. Let's pull this in a bit and let's turn this off for now so we can see better. In fact, to make this easier to see, I'm going to make a new material. Let's just copy that. And then let's color it. There we go. Let's color it like blue. Kind of see what's going on here. Let me do that so you can see intersections better. So let's try and pull the front edge pretty far in because our front edge of hair will sit on top of it. But let's not have things intersecting. Again, it's very detailed work, but this can save time later, so it's worth it. So if the edges kind of overlap a little bit, it's kind of okay because the textures vignette out. This one would not be good. Pull that forward a bit here. Let's pull this one back a bit there. And maybe let's also rotate that in some. It gets harder up towards the top because you have so many strands of hair converging. So I usually pick some pieces to go up and some to go down. And just kind of hope it works. I'm not liking that intersection there. This is towards the bottom where it's a little more wavy, but I think that might. And then I don't like that intersection. So let's pull this one out and rotate it a bit. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Let's just turn on our face orientation just to check and see. We've got a lot of red from the front. Maybe that's not good there. Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay, let's go to our UV editing layout here. And then grab our hair, Control-Shift-H, finalize hair, bring this down to here, turn that off. These things you save them because you can always go back and edit them and then re-finalize the hair. It's okay, got that here. And then let's go and shift click that, Control-L, link materials. So now this hair has our main materials. We can turn on shading, go to edit mode, face mode, A, SY to pull that up like that. And we're going to skip solid. Let's jump to medium and SX. So we'll jump to medium. We're not going to do any solid for this hair. And we might even take out a few of these mediums. But for the most part, we want it to be rather light. You can grab that and hit slash to isolate just to see how dense that one piece of hair is. So I think what I'm going to do with this hair, I find it useful to kind of like have it thick in the middle and kind of like thin out on the sides. So I'm going to grab that one and that one, Control I, and then Shift D. Okay, mesh, separate selection. Grab our first one here, edit mode, A. So this is the first one we just made. GX. So pull this over to the light layers of hair. And then grab our medium ones here. Yeah, so that's medium. Grab our main one here. Go to X-ray mode. Then control click some of that. Let's Alt S to push these lighter ones out a bit. So now we have the light ones. So this one here is the same one that we had earlier, except we took off some of the outer ones. This one here is all of it, but it's pushed out further. So now it kind of has a nice floaty, airy feel to it. But it looks like it's sticking out too far. So let's do this. Let's go and grab the denser one, grab that, point mode, A, vertex group. We'll call this hair second medium and assign the vertices. Grab this one here, edit mode, point mode, vertex groups, hair, second read hair, light, and assign. Make sure you click assign. Let's join these, Control J, go to sculpt mode. So it doesn't look like an extra strand or an extra layer just kind of floating in space. Let's pull it in tighter. Let's kind of look at it and see how it looks. I feel like it's still sticking out too much. Let's go to object and sculpt mode. I feel like that's pretty good. Now let's check and see if we've got intersections. I think we do. Yeah, there's a lot. Pull it out just a bit. So we're just outside of the lower mesh. Okay, like that. Let's go back here and check it. If you don't like how airy it is, you can add some more to it. So let's show how to do that. Let's grab our hair here. Let's toggle that to on solid. Edit mode, face mode. So you can grab a few of these faces in the middle a bit. Maybe that one too. And then Shift D, drop it, mesh, separate selection, edit, exit edit, go back into edit and grab the one we just made, which was the smaller one. Edit mode again, A, face mode, Alt S to pull that whole thing inwards and make sure you're going the right way. To pull that in a bit. This right here is a bad sign. I'm not sure how that happened. So it should be a simple matter of just deleting that. So grab that L, X, faces. But it does tell me that something weird happened, so I cut a chunk out. So I'm looking now to see if there's a missing section, but there's not, so that's okay. Go back to our new one here. Edit mode. And I think let's move let's leave on medium. And then go back to our shaded. And let's see if this is doing something. Yeah, so it's filling in the space a bit. You can go to sculpt mode here, elastic. And it's getting hard to see any kind of differences, but just look carefully. If you didn't like that airiness, edit things or sculpt it so you can fill in those spaces. It's helpful to go to edit mode and select all so you can just kind of like remember where you're at, and then go back to sculpt mode and push things around a bit. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Edit object mode. And then let's rejoin these two, Control J. Okay, so now I think our secondary strand is good. Let's go to here and mirror and Control A, all transforms. Okay, there we go. And then let's do the main first read hair finally. Let's grab this mesh here, go to edit mode. Let's isolate so we can see better. Let's grab this edge and edge mark sharp. Unisolate, go to object mode. Let's Control Shift H. Curves from grid surface. Let's do this again. Let's see. Let's do 9, 8. We'll duplicate this a few times. Let's leave this at 6. Let's pull this more towards the roots. Like that. And that's good enough. Let's check the hair here. Let's check our thickness of the hair. So I think I'm going to make the thickness a little bit smaller so we can get this area up here to look better. Then we'll just thicken all the hair down here. So let's reduce the thickness a bit like that. And that's good. Let's check our face orientation. Looks flipped. Edit mode, A, Control T, and rotate that around. It's hard to see what's going on here. It's Control T. Okay, like that. Turn off face orientation. We want to get these hairs kind of growing up and over, so let's turn off proportional editing. Pull that up more like that. Then let's shift, select that, segments, subdivide, shape that a bit nicer. Okay, so this is probably the most important set of hairs because you'll see this the most. So try and spend some time with this. Or you can color this guy here, so duplicate that. Viewport display and change that. There we go. We will put curls on this, so right now this placement is just pretty rough. Just kind of lining it pretty loosely. Something like that. Okay, let's go Control-Shift-H and generate curls. Then mess with these settings here. Let's do a larger radius. Frequency doesn't look so good. Let's add some gravity. Let's lower the frequency, increase the radius. Okay, I think that's something we can work with. Let's play with the seed a bit here. Let's mess with the randomization and mess with the seed. No, I want less gravity and more frequency. A little more curly in front. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. And then let's go and increase the size of this stuff. So Alt-S, so we can make these cover a bit more space. Okay, I think that's good. Let's pull these outside of the hair over here. Then let's look at our intersections here and fix some of this. And let's go to our modeling layout. So we have two windows. Let's use this view to move things and this view to look at things. And let's turn off face orientation. Okay, so let's have the hair in the front will lay over the hairs as you go backwards. So let's pull the one in front out and let's turn connected only on. Okay, so that's good. Let's grab that, pull that out. Control T to rotate that a bit. Let's pull these out here. We will let these two sit lower and pull this one out. Like that. It's pretty good. Scaled up a bit. Alt-S. Okay. Push this one down a bit. Let's check our roots over here. It's not bad. I think maybe these, let's turn off partial editing. Maybe these can be a little more steep. Like this is pretty good here, so let's try and do that. Maybe we'll subdivide it. And then grab the middle ones. Pull that over. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Let's pull this down a bit. Let's Alt-S and scale this. Let's turn on proportional editing and Alt-S and scale in. Let's rotate that a bit. Pull it over here. So it's just a nice curve. Let's rotate that more front facing. Let's pull it forward like that. And let's scale it bigger. This one is sticking out a bit, which we want. So let's make it stick out more and rotate it a bit. Control T. Okay. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. This might actually be not great here, so let's Let's move this one in a bit. I think it's this one here. Okay, so that's pretty good for this set. You can see it's rather cavernous in here. So let's add some, let's duplicate some of these and fill that inner area a bit. Okay, so let's grab this, Shift D, let's pull this down a bit, and then go back into edit mode. What we're going to do is, let's delete some of these. Okay, X and segments. Okay, so we have that left. Let's grab these and just kind of pull it inwards. Let's make a new material so we can see the difference. Pink. Grab both of those, isolate, grab our pink hair. So let's move these inwards to fill up that kind of like giant void. Okay, and let's move some of these individually. If you want to save some like processing power, you can probably delete stuff like that. And then Alt S and just kind of like pull it in at the very bottom. And then let's just move this in a bit to fill the space so you just kind of see something there. And then let's rotate it so it's forward facing. So Control T. And let's also make sure this is facing the right way. So see this red, that's from the main hair back here, so that's okay. But this one that we're adding on, that should kind of cover it. Let's turn this off again. And then maybe pull this down some so we can get some variety. I feel like we need some, oh, here's one. Okay, I feel like we need some more. Scale it down and pull that back. You don't want to really see this end too much because it's a weird. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's go and finalize these. Actually, let's do this. Let's make some more space so we can see. Control Shift H, finalize hair. Let's drag that to the mesh. Yeah, okay. And then grab that one. Control Shift H, finalize hair, grab that to the mesh and toggle that off. So now let's grab these two, Shift click one of those, Control L, link materials. Let's go to our UV editing window, grab our new hair here, edit mode, SY, pull that up just a bit, GX, and SX. Got that one. Let's do the same thing right here. A. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so it's not bad. You can see it's a little too transparent looking. So this is it's a bit harder because you see this hair a lot. So you kind of don't want to use the solid hair too much at all. So it's just going to take a lot of using the medium density hair. And I guess you could throw a couple solid ones in there just to fill up the space. But it's more towards the front, so you just want to kind of be careful with it. And I'm looking now to see how much volume this is taking, and I think it's too much. We can sculpt that in shape. Okay, so let's go here. Yeah, let's just join it. Let's go and turn a mirror on here. And then Control A, all transforms. Yeah, she's got a lot of hair going on there. Okay. So let's go and sculpt this a bit. What I want to do is I want to kind of curl more. So let's going to do that. And we're going to have to make the left and right side look different, but for now we can just work in mirror mode. It's okay. This upper corner has the push down, but it's not this hair we're working on, so we'll have to go and modify the main hair or the second hair. But let's just work on this front for now. Okay. Looks like we have some intersection here, so let's pull that out. Okay, so I think that is good. Then let's go and fill this up with some filler material here. So let's go to object mode and let's see what we have to work with here. So this is the main area. It looks like it's thin. Let's grab that and let's see if we can grab some pieces from the bottom. Shift D and move this down. And then mesh, separate selection. Okay, let's grab that one we just made. Okay, there it goes. Edit mode, grab that. Face mode, grab that. Let's unselect some of those. And let's shift D again. Pull that down there. Oops, pull that. Turn off proportional editing and pull that back over there, like that. Let's Alt S and move that in just a bit. And let's turn on X-ray and pull some of this in. Let's turn proportional editing back on and pull that in a bit more. And just stagger that back like that. Okay, so we have some buildup there. Maybe not quite enough, but let's do this. Let's go to Object and Sculpt mode and move it around and see if we can make it a little more opaque. And I think we need some more of that. So let's do this. Let's just take this in Object mode and Shift D. Move that down a bit. Go back to Sculpt mode. Let's just pull that down a bit like that. Let's pull this in a bit. Okay, so that's looking nice and solid. Then let's do this. Let's go to Object mode, grab those two we just made, and isolate them. I don't think we need the hair going down that far. Let's X and faces. Then let's grab this edge there, scale that in. We might have to go back and make sure it's blocking enough again, but let's do this a bit to randomize it. I've got a little flat edge there. Let's fix that one here. And let's delete some faces. I think that's pretty good. Let's go back here and see if we are solid enough. Oh, maybe not. You can see it's a little bit thin here also. So let's go and do a bit to fill that in. Let's zoom in here and find some geometry that covers that area that's close to it. Yeah, I think that one, maybe one more. Not that one. Okay, then we will go to face mode, Shift D, mesh, separate selection. So we're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Just trying to make this a little bit more solid. Was that the one we had? Okay, then let's go to Object and Sculpt mode. Let's pull that back a bit. It's not going to be thick enough. You can tell it's just not doing it. We're on the medium one, so let's just duplicate this. Shift D, like that. Get rid of some of that. And I think this was visible from there, so let's just do this and move it more like that. Okay, now let's go to sculpt mode. And that feels better. Be a bit more like that. So just try and get your geometry to block some of the light. I think, thinking maybe we make these solid. Let's see how it looks. No, let's not. Because if you use these for kind of fancy animations or renderings where the hair kind of falls forward or flows back, you'll pretty easily see the solid texture, and I don't like that. If the hair's not going to move that much, then you could do that. So I guess it's up to what you're going to do with this character. If the hair's not going to flow that much, then you could probably make this underlying part solid, so no light goes through. But if this hair is going to move more, then you want to just keep doubling this up until it's nice and solid, but with using these dense meshes. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this one more time. Let's just grab one here and Shift D, pull that in, and I think that should be it. Okay, I think it's looking pretty good there. Let's go and make a lighter layer, because these are all mediums. Let's add some light on top of there. Okay, grab all that, A, face mode, Shift D and move it a bit. Mesh, separate selection, leave edit mode, grab our new hair we just made, A, let's GX and move this over here so it's the light layer, and pull that in a bit. Then let's go to sculpt mode and pull some of this around so you can see the nice wispy material. Then let's go and randomize some of these. So partial editing is turned on. Let's just move some of it. So it's just not super uniform. Not too bad. Let's see here. So let's go and merge some of these hairs together. And I think these were light. So let's go and make a group for light. Vertex group here. So hair first for first read, light, and assign. And all the rest was medium, so I don't think we need to worry about that. And I didn't name these, so I don't know what's going on here. So let's hide the other ones. This is the back. This is the second read hair. You see here, this is all first read. If you want, you can go and like delete some of these faces down here. So you can like cut some of that off so it's not as much geometry there. Okay, then let's just merge all those. Control J, now that's one big first read chunk of hair. And let's turn everything else back on. And we've got the bulk of the work done. We still need to apply the mirror and make this front look a little bit less uniform, and add some flyaways to here. But this is like 80% of the hair, and 90% of the hair is done. So that's looking pretty good, I think. Okay, so let's use our sculpt tool to sculpt all of these hairs a bit to shape it more to our liking. But the sculpt tool only works for one piece of geometry at a time. So let's make some selection, some vertex groups. So this will be, let's make a new one. We'll call this hair first, and assign. We'll call this one A plus hair second read, assign. We'll call this one back here hair main. And then let's make sure this is all we need. Yep, we'll leave those together. So then let's just Control J and join the whole thing. And then go to sculpt mode And let's just shape this a little more to the way it wants to look. Try not to go too far because you'll start intersecting with the sideburns and the nape, but I think this shape is not quite doing it yet. These corners are kind of boxy like. But when messing with hair, these selection sets are a nice way to kind of separate things and bring them back together again. So just shape it the way you like it. Or if you already like it, you can skip this. Maybe it's blocking her eyes too much. Okay, well, mess with this as much as you want to. I'm going to say it's good for this tutorial. Let's go to object mode. Grab our hair again. Let's break it up into sections. So let's go and get the hair first. Select, mesh, separate selection. Grab that chunk again. And get the hair second or the hair main. Hair main. Select. Oh, see, I forgot to apply the vertexes to that group. Okay, thankfully I did that one. So mesh, separate selection. And now we have our 3 chunks again. So now let's go and apply this mirror modifier, and then we'll make the front non-uniform, and the same thing for the back. So, but we're getting there. We're getting close. Let's make some lights so we can better see our hair. So let's go to new collection, call this lights. Let's make sure our 3D cursor is there somewhere. It's fine. We'll go Shift A and then lights and point. Make one of these. And then everybody has a different way of doing lights. This is just how I like to do them. I'll make 3 lights. So it's Shift D each time. And then I'll make these 2 will be kind of backlighting or rim lighting. So I'll make one a little bit cool and bright. This one here will be maybe a different cool or maybe neutral, like that, and make that bright. And this one here, a little bit warm and not as bright. Let's go and see how it looks. Let's go to our modeling view. So we have a couple of windows to work with. Okay. So let's see here. Why can't we see our extras? Extras. Okay. So in this view over here, we can move the lights around. So you can see the light kind of moves. So I usually put this around the front and off to the side a bit, so you can get some definition for the face details like the nose with the shadow, and get a bit of reflection in the eyes. And you just kind of got to play with it until it's in the right spot. So that's kind of okay there. And for the 2 rim lights or the side lighting, same thing, just kind of move it until it feels like it's a good space. These I usually make it a little bit smaller. Where's the radius? Like that, and maybe a bit cooler. Over here, let me make that a bit brighter. And a bit smaller. And this one here, I usually make it bigger, so it's a nice soft light for the face. So something like that. It's not very fancy, but it kind of gets the job done. And then you can catch highlights in the hair easier with light sources. And if your lights aren't showing up, make sure you have seeing lights turned on, so you can see it. And then you can play with different pick different temporary backgrounds. Find one you like. It's kind of distracting. Maybe like Something like that. That's kind of too much. Yeah, that's kind of nice and neutral. And then another thing that I like to do is Shift A, S, and 1. So our 3D cursor is back to Shift S and 1. So our 3D cursor is back to the 0 point, and Shift A and create an empty. And then I like to grab the lights and then Shift click the empty, Control P, object. And so now if you rotate this in Z, you can just rotate the lights around your person, and you can see the kind of makes it easier just to quickly check out the reflections in the hair. So that's got our little light source, so that's good. Let's play with the hair shader a bit. It looks a little bit flat to me. So let's go to the shader editor, hit N to make that go away, and let's look at this here. So I think if we lower the specular, it'll look less flat, a little more rich, not that much. And if we increase the metallic, it'll have more shine to it. I like to use a lot of metallic actually. And if you want to make it further shiny, you can add clear coat to it. This will only really work in Blender. And it's easy to go too far, so 0.1 it'll be way too shiny. The spots look like shiny car paint. But if you go really low, like 0.005, you can't really see it, but it adds just a little bit more gloss to it, which I kind of like. Okay, so let's work on our hair, making it non-uniform. Let's go back to a 3D viewport here, and let's move that over. Grab this hair, and we're going to delete the mirror like that, and then Shift D, and then let's go SX -1. Okay, that worked. Let's go and turn on our face orientation and Control A, and let's tell you why. So whenever you mirror things, it puts a -1 on the scale, and you kind of want to leave this always at 111 so you don't confuse other operations in Blender, or if you export this, it kind of messes things up. So just apply the scale. You can actually apply all transforms, and then you see what happens is it flips it. I don't know why it does that, it just does it. So go to edit mode, face mode, A, Alt N for normals, and flip. Okay, so now that's facing the correct orientation. And let's go and just shape this a bit. Let's turn that off, turn that off, object and sculpt. Let's grab our elastic tool and just push things around a bit until it looks nice. And change the view if that helps you. It's my computer's very slow, so this helps me a lot because it's just faster. But then you kind of can't see what's going on as much. Let's see how that looks. Okay, looks a little less uniform. Maybe the hair up here can change. This upper corner looks very distinct. Let's pull that down a bit. And pull this up a bit. It's a little better. Let's do it some more. Okay, it feels a little different to me. Okay, so now that's looking good. Let's check out the back here. And I can definitely see a mirror pattern back there, so let's go and do the same thing for the back. Let's go back to object mode, grab this back hair, let's delete this mirror. And I do want to fix those gaps here. So let's go here. here, edit mode, zoom in. Proportional editing is turned on. Let's just move that up. Let's get more. And I think this one too. I think that'll look a little bit nicer. Let's just check it with the mirror turned on. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so let's delete that mirror. And then we will Shift D, drop it, SX -1, Control A, all transforms. And then let's modify this copy so it just looks a little more natural and less like a mirror modifier. So object, sculpt mode, get our elastic tool, and let's just move this over a bit. You can hit insert to toggle the overlays so you don't see the selection set colors, and kind of play with how much scalp read you want. Like for real, in real life, you'll see a little bit of scalp there. I kind of don't like it, so I just leave it like just barely closed, but depends on what style you're going to go for. And this part's okay to overlap, but let's make it look non-uniform. So we'll go to edit mode and face mode and grab some stuff and just kind of move it around. You just kind of randomize it a bit. He's trying to break the obvious symmetry. Yeah, so it just looks a little bit more kind of messy or just natural. Okay, so it's pretty good. And then I think we can add some fine detailing to this. So let's go and do that next. So it's a good idea to go around all these mirrored sides like these over here too, and make them look not as uniform, but that'll take a lot of time, so I'll skip that for this video. But it's the same thing as how we made the front non-uniform and the back non-uniform. Just do it to the whole thing until it looks nice, but I want to show you the details. So I like to use the other parts of the hair cards, or the hair textures. So let's go back over here, let's zoom in, and let's turn on our lights, scene lights. Okay, let's go to edit mode, and let's grab a set of faces again, like that. And then let's go and face mode and Shift D and duplicate that. And then mesh, separate selection, exit object mode, back into object mode, hit A. We've done this a lot. And drag this over here to like maybe this first one or the second one. Looks good. Go here, and then go to edit and sculpt mode. Make that a bit bigger and pull it out. And so you should see, where is it? Okay, there it goes. So you should see just like a couple of like very distinct strands, a little bit thicker of hair. And so pull that around till it's kind of like a shape that you like. You can kind of focus on it, and you read it as, when people look at it, they'll read it as like a strand of hair, and it kind of adds to the believability a little bit. You can make a couple of these, maybe make another one. So go to object mode. Maybe we don't take it from that shape, maybe we grab another one. Let's go over here. Hit L to grab a different shape. That, Shift D, pull that over, mesh, separate selection, exit out, grab it again, back into edit mode, A, G, X, and pull this over, and then S, X, pull that over. Maybe let's use this one over here. And then let's deselect these roots, drop a 3D cursor. We'll set this to rotate around 3D cursor. Not sure why that's there. Unselect some of these here, and then rotate it so it kind of starts to hang in the front a bit. Let's get rid of this thing here. Okay, so then let's go to sculpt mode and just pull it a bit until you can see it and it's in a nice place. So something like that. If you can't, if you're lost and can't see it, you can go to edit mode, hit A, go to insert, then you can see, okay, that's where you're adding stuff. Then go back here to sculpt mode and play with it until it's good. So I like what's going on down there. It looks very strandy. I don't like it up on top because I liked that single hair more. So it's going to pull this back a bit. Yeah, okay. So I think that's a little bit better. So that's one way you can add details, and you can go out throughout the whole head and just do that here and there. But let me show you the hair tools. It has this great feature. So let me show you how to use that too. So let's go to object mode. The draw hair feature for hair tools is a really great tool. It makes it easy to just add some flyaways or breakaways. So if you go to hair tool, look for draw hair. It's this tool here. I'm using Blender 3.2, and I noticed that the hair tools is a little bit buggy, and so this was not there. It was closed, and when you click it, nothing happened. So to fix that, I went to edit, preferences, add-ons, hair tools here, and then I did I reinstalled the current version, and then that made this button reappear. Otherwise it looked like that. When you click the drop down caret, nothing happened. So if that happens, it's a small bug. Just reinstall it and then it'll reappear. Okay, so that being said, let's go and draw some hair. Let's go to this view so it's a little bit faster to work with. And so the way draw hair works is it draws on whatever mesh you have currently selected. If you draw off of that mesh, it'll go crazy. So try and stay within the boundaries of the hair you have selected. You could grab all this hair and join it, and then you can draw freely, but I don't want to unjoin things. I want to leave them separate for now, so I'm just going to be careful. So let's click draw hair, hold D and left click and drag, and let's draw the hair that's kind of, wow, that's kind of a different shape. It's very different. So you need to adjust the settings for this a bit. So turn off pressure because I don't have a pen, and then let's reduce the width a bit. That's fairly similar. And let's adjust the elevation, fall off higher, and distance down there. So you're trying to get this hair to kind of skim the surface. So just play with the settings. You can dive down the roots a bit. Play with the fall off. I find it's hard to control, so you just gotta kind of get close, and we'll edit the curves manually, and we won't be making a lot of these. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay, D, and let's do another piece that kind of doesn't follow any pattern, so it's gonna start here, and let's go like something like that. It's awful wide. Should remember the settings. It's pretty good. Let's go draw one over here. Like, let's go the other way. That's too similar. Let's go like this and like that. Okay. Let's draw one here. Maybe one over here. Maybe one over here. I'll just fix that later. They are getting awful wide. I'm not sure why that is. This should stick. And let's put maybe one here. Yeah, something like that. Maybe one more. Yeah, okay. And let's reduce the width again. Go to edit mode and just roughly drag these in place. These will be pretty light, so we're not going to see a lot of them. I mean, it'll be a little bit hard to see. We can subdivide these segments and subdivide. Yeah, so it's a little more in shape. Let's rotate that a bit. Pull it in. So just kind of like just shape the hair a bit to get it looking kind of nice and random. And just kind of roughly just shape it. Feels like the roots are the parts that gets messed up the most. And once you change the roots, the hair kind of twists. Okay, I think it looks pretty nice and random there. Don't like the intersection, but I think you can't see it because we never saw it before, so I think it's okay. Maybe these guys pull them down a bit. Okay, I think that is good. Let's go here and grab all of our new hair curves there. Control J to put them in one big chunk. And then Control Shift H, finalize hair. Then we'll grab that and pull it up here. Then we should name all these things here. Hair fly. We'll just name that for now. Then let's go and shift click another hair. Control L, link materials. Go over here. Let's turn that on. Okay. Let's grab our hair. Oops, let's turn that off. Let's grab our flyaway hair over here. Edit mode. A. Zoom out a bit. S, Y. Okay, and let's pull this over to like, maybe this one. Move it just to get a feel for how thick it is. It's pretty thin. Maybe grab some of the ones back here and make them thicker. Maybe grab one of these and make it thicker still. SX like that. And then, I mean, it's going to be hard to see, but if you select all, or actually if you just toggle this off, you should see some kind of like unevenness in some of the hair. I mean, she's got dark hair, so it's actually harder to see. But you can see with some of the highlights, it's doing some different things. So it's a good thing to do. If you want, you can make it thicker over here too. Let's see if it makes any difference here. GX. Yeah, I think it's doing something. I wasn't happy with the hair, so I went back and rejoined the outer hair, sculpted it, and re-broke everything back up again. It was just too poofy, but now I think it's finally good. But now I think she's got some long, beautiful brunette hair made of hair cards that are fully textured. That's it for our tutorial today. I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, leave a comment, like, subscribe, or support me on Patreon. Or if there are other ideas or things that you want to learn, let me know in the comments below.